Here we are on Saturday night, about 48 minutes before Easter. And we're here with Adam Gingrich. And it's
That is
Saturday, did I
correct.
mention? I want to thank, by the way, I don't know if Bill Colvard is here yet, but thank you, Bill Colvard. He sent us a donation while I was at Home Depot today around 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. And we just got one from, hold on a second, Shelly. Thank you, Shelly. I have another monitor over here, and even though it's huge, I can't read anything off it, which is unfortunate. It's good to have the cell phone. Yes. Thank you, Shelly, and thank you, Bill Colvard. So, what have you heard? What's the good word, Adam?
Good word. Doesn't really apply to the current state of Twitter, which is just manifest whining and devolved into a pitiful manifestation of weakness. I think what we're seeing now is you're always going to have that moment in time where you deal with a situation, critical, non-critical in some parts, critical in other parts of the country. And if it's not an enemy that you can see or waves a flag or in some way measures insurgency, you're going to show cracks in the armor pretty quick. And we're showing cracks in the armor pretty quick. This country can't see the virus. They know that it's, rampant in some places and non-existent in others. It's a recipe for disaster as far as Trump's federal response. And it all just kind of shows up on Twitter. And it's, to be honest with you, I can't take a lot of it. Right. So that's why I've been less active on Twitter. I mean, it's not as if I'm not on or looking, but I have less to say. I have less input and tolerance and patience for these people who are just looking to basically take a chisel into whatever developing fracture there is and just kind of like get in there and create friction and fissure where there need not be any. And I think that it hasn't been a great 24 hours for us as Americans. I think we can do a little better than this, to be honest with you. It's all too familiar. It's it's the latest and not so greatest reaction to everyday news. No one believes anyone. Certainly no one believes the government. No one believes anybody reporting about the government. And no one believes the people that are so conspiratorial that they're out of their gourd. So it's just a really tough time to explain the logistics of what we're going through. I mean, I do have some experience in, dealing with a federal, state, local interaction during an emergency. So this stuff is pretty clinical to me, or academic, if you will. And what I see is people making it more or less about the haves and the have-nots, and it's bothersome to me because we used to come together in times of internal strife, and what we have now is just every possible point of view out there, but it's most of them still are laced with tinfoil wrapped around the skulls.
So I'm at Home Depot today to get a gallon of paint.
Mm-hmm.
And they have shut down in the brain dead hysteria, which I now am living through, others panicking. They've shut down the self-serve aisles because clearly those would be much easier to infect than the one aisle that they've kept open. And they have this midget guy with a hand scanner going to everyone's cart and scanning everything and handing them a card. a card which you present at the one remaining cash register. She swipes it and then you pay. That's how it's supposed to work. And so a lot of these morons are wearing surgical masks.
Okay.
So I'm looking at the scene of these morons. It's like watch if there was a pornography category. We know there's like midget porn, of course, and other bizarre types of porn. But if they had a pornography for just dumb people, so it'd be like stupid people having sex, like sticking in the wrong hole or not finding the hole or thinking this is a woman, but it's a man or vice versa. Maybe I should. This is when we're done with MAGA Coalition. I will invent this type of pornography, and we'll be happily making my retirement bucks off it. So I'm watching these guys. All of them are wearing the wrong mask, and most of the people wearing the wrong mask, the mask isn't fitted on the face properly. I can see the huge gaps, mainly here on the sides of the chin, and people who have facial hair. You really need to know what you're doing. And I'm thinking, okay, so they're having us line up again with the lining up thing. So we're now right together. And I'm supposed to take any of this seriously. I'm sorry, I don't. I can't. It's all half-assed, man. And you're wondering why people are going crazy. I only go out once every 4 days. Imagine these poor souls who are going shopping, looking for that last toilet paper roll. At some point, you're just going to lose it. I've decided I'm not going out until they open things up again. I'm done. I'm like you. I'm done. I don't really cruise Twitter because I don't care. And I'm not going to the Home Depot because I can't take it. There's no reason to have at Walmart, all the self-checkout things are open and they have a battery of people with a spray bottle and disposable Clorox wipes. That's what you do. That's what you do. But this is that same Home Depot I've been complaining about now for how many weeks? I mean, you'll figure it out.
You got a fan there.
Yeah, obviously this guy's not married. You think I wanted to go out and get that paint? No, that wasn't my idea. Anyway, if the MAGA coal failed, why are we here? Seems to me the MAGA coal not only survived, we survived all of them. And who's left? So anyway, there it is. I don't know what to tell you. I think, whoa, what the hell is this? Now that's interesting. Hold on a second. To celebrate our failure, Adam, I would like to thank Lorena, who says, thank you both, Glenn and Adam. You're my only source of political news. With a sizable donation. Thank you, Lorena.
Oh, that's very nice.
Fantastic. This is success, Adam. After years of nothing, we finally, maybe. Nah, I still don't care. I don't care.
I just think it's in America, I just had a higher opinion of our ability to withstand and our ability to recognize what's required and then, obviously chirp up at something that's not required. And I get it. And it's just that when the terrorists decided to concentrate on New York and Washington, there wasn't this moment where we all kind of thought, well, there was like a small moment where we thought, how many planes are left, right? Remember that rumor for like an hour and a half that there were planes going and all over the country to hit every target, Sears Tower in Chicago, and they were going to hit the sites in California as well. And nobody knew what the hell to believe, but everybody generally pulled together. And then specifically, once they learned that the sites that were hit, there was an immediate rally around this. And now it's just petulance and bitchiness. And, the shelf life on 9/11 and how the country responded to it is clearly expired. And what you're looking at now in the metro region of New Jersey and New York is you're talking about over 11,000 dead in a matter of weeks. We're not talking about flu seasons that extend over two years. And what we got from most Americans is petulant whining and absolute disassociation from it. And then it just gives way to all these fantastical fears about the worst part of our government. And this will end, as Trump said. This is not we're not blasting a shotgun hole through our civil liberties and our rights. Frankly, it's just an absurd discussion. And I watch people that I used to like. I watch people that I used to think were friends of mine go down this rabbit hole of dissension and bad information instead of attacking the people that did this to us, which was China. And they choose to attack some crazy liberal mayor in one state who's going to try to block drive-in church services. You know what? This country's been a lot worse. We've been through a lot worse. And matter of fact, every single one of those cities, mayors, councils that voted this by resolution, they're going to be sued into oblivion when this thing is done. And I want to reach out and take a moment, if you will, for people to understand that this is a relatively new phenomenon over the last couple of centuries, where Christians could openly get out there and celebrate Easter without, depending on where you were in the world, without retribution. And I would like to remind everybody else that the first Easter Christians were scared, isolated, sheltered in place, in fear of being hunted down by Romans, not sure whether or not their Christ the Redeemer was really actually going to resurrect after 3 days. They were all hiding in their homes. It's been done before. Matter of fact, that's the precedence for it. For you to feel the need to flaunt yourself as some religious agent of truth and freedom and constitutional glory, to the extent where you're going to pack your family up into your Subaru so that you can listen to some preacher read from the literature that you have in your own Bible in your own home. I get it. You should have the right to assemble in that capacity, but to me, it just sounds like you're angling for a fight. And as much as we need the evangelical vote, we're going to have the evangelical vote. Trump is not shutting these things down. The Department of Justice has actively, as of tonight, released a memorandum to all states and localities of third-class cities and above that they will look for targeted enforcement in religious activities, and they will prosecute local governments and police officers who attempt to unnecessarily disrupt religious ceremonies that are being done in a way that's consistent with the CDC guidelines. To me, that's good enough. And to me, being sheltered in my home for the first time in my lifetime for Easter Sunday is an opportunity for me to teach my kids, 6 and 7, what the first Easter was, what the first Christians endured after the death of Christ, which was basically oblivion. They thought that they followed a cult leader who was dead and that they were going to be hunted down by Roman soldiers and executed. and they were all hiding until they could get verification that Christ was risen. That's what our entire, as Christians, as Catholics and Christians, which, believe it or not, are the same, so Protestants should stop trying to divide us on that. This is a pretty unique opportunity to teach your family, your kids about the first Easter, because it's such an extraordinary circumstance. This is such an extraordinary circumstance that you should not feel the need to have your regular Easter activities and then bitch and moan as if we are now under communist China. It's a national declaration of emergency signed by Donald Trump. So if you want to take it out on somebody, you can take it out on Donald Trump. You can take it out on the governor of your state. You can take it out on the mayor or borough council or township that decided to crack down on these religious things. If that makes you feel any better, go right ahead. Meanwhile, I notice all these people are just preaching the worst case civil disobedience and all that kind of crap. I notice that they're not really paying attention to what's going on in New York and New Jersey. And there's a basic dispassionate response to it, which is the complete opposite of 9/11. So I think there's a lot of people who were like, yeah. We remember when 3,000 people died in New York. That was bad, blah, 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 blah. That was terrorist. This is just a virus. And you know what? New Yorkers should have taken better care of themselves. And, so what if there's 12,000 dead of them in a couple of weeks? So what? I guess we've lost that ability to come together as Americans. I really do. It's a shame.
How could you possibly expect anyone to come together? Maybe you and I live
because we've done it in the past. That's all I'm saying. I mean,
we did it 20 years ago.
No, but we did it for at least the period of war that we were engaged in. We never really. It took us
Which
5,
war?
6
World War
years.
II, maybe.
No. We were all. I mean, there was.
So
it wasn't until we came up blanks, bupkis on weapons of mass destruction that people started to double back and blame Bush for.
I'm just saying, Iraq. Since Kennedy got shot, the country has been becoming increasingly more divided in a kind of cultural civil war footing. And there was a few months respite after 9/11, but it didn't last long. I mean, when I saw the Democrats, what were they? Remember, they were like either they were reciting the national, I think they were singing the national anthem on the steps of the Congress, right? And I looked at that, and I remember telling my wife, "Look at those fake assholes." So I wasn't coming together. I knew what it was. The people may have come together for a brief period, but I don't think the politicians gave a shit. They just impeached the president 3 months ago.
I get that, but that world existed in a pre-social media, largely before social media could mobilize and make apparent what everybody's supposedly thinking right away.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that the reason 9/11 had a bigger impact than this is that at the end of the day, there were no Twin Towers. So I went to sleep and there were Twin Towers. And when I woke up, there weren't. But trying to explain to me that 10,000 people died, that's an esoteric thing. If you recall, Stalin's favorite quote about that was a single death is a tragedy, a million deaths are a statistic. It's very difficult to try to explain to someone, 20,000 people you didn't know who were mainly over the age of 70 and had all these other problems, died in a hospital on a ventilator. Oh, yeah? Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. It's not like 10% of the population died across the board, so everybody knows somebody. The media
Yeah.
and maybe the White House are trying
That would
to
be crazy.
well, I mean, but that has happened. It's not like we've never had true pandemics that kill 10, 15, 20% of a population. It's happened.
Not in America, maybe globally,
Well,
but
maybe not in
yeah,
America,
yeah.
but I'm just saying it's happened. And it hasn't happened here. I mean,
No. But what I get a real kick out of, what I get a real charge out of intellectually, is this notion that this mitigation policy that's been put forth by federal, state, local authorities has not really put a dent into anything. So people just assume that the data that informs the models would have been the same data regardless of mitigation, which to me is absolutely ascientific, anti-intellectual, and matter of fact, grade school level education could probably get you to the point where you can see that mitigation is responsible for a significant, and I'm talking a substantial, for the point that we're at right now, as far as lives lost. So it's not as if we're doing this Chinese fire drill for no reason. And I think that Twitter doesn't seem to really understand any of that. Like the metro region in New York and Jersey, like they have some kind of special mutation of the coronavirus that won't impact us in Philadelphia. It won't impact me in Harrisburg. It won't get to Columbus, Ohio, and it won't go to Cincinnati or anywhere else in the country. So it's just kind of funny to watch people's perspective on that. If you look at California, they've just shut down. They've been shut down for quite some time, and that mitigation is inarguable. You can't argue against it. The only argument against this would be empirical, and that is to allow everybody back to doing what they were doing before. And then whammo, if you're wrong, you're done. You're dead. You got a lot of people dead. You're unelected. You lose. So, I mean, there's a lot of geniuses out there that really think they know what's going on.
I mean, look, we've got Fauci talking about mitigation in his early predictions, all of which were woefully wrong.
Fauci didn't make any predictions.
Fauci
didn't inform one model. Fauci had nothing to do with any model. I mean, the models that they were using were produced by the couple of universities, including the one that they decided to bring up, which was IHME from the University of Washington. Other models were informed by Chinese, other from Europe. But Fauci didn't do anything. Fauci did nothing different than Dr. Birx.
But that's what I'm saying. They were the mouthpiece.
Okay. All right. Oh, so Fauci's an idiot and has been so wrong. Now, if I recall, at the beginning of this whole thing, we didn't indicate anything. We saw the worst case numbers that could possibly happen, which would be 1 million deaths. Let's just call it 1 million deaths. Let's just say that's the worst that could ever happen, even though it was higher than that. So let's just drop that in half. Because since we're dropping the regular COVID mortality in half, which was between 100 and 2,000, we're dropping it down now to 60 to 50,000. It makes sense that we can drop 2 million to 1 million if no mitigation was involved at all. So,
but that's wild speculation.
How is that wild speculation, Glenn?
That's not science. What you've just done is not science. It's pure speculation.
I'm basing it on population of cases per 100,000 citizens.
We don't even know what the
What don't we know? So this genome is going to get out of New York City and just not infect anybody anymore?
New York City.
If we allow everybody to take Amtrak trains out of New York to get away from this thing, and they go into Philadelphia.
See, but now you're mixing apples and oranges, right?
Why am I mixing? It's the same fucking. It's the same disease.
One possible strategy would have been to see where the biggest places were, where people were getting this, and prevent anyone from leaving those places. right? New York would have definitely been top 10, number one. But they didn't stop anyone from leaving New York. If you want to leave New York right now, you can. So much so that other states are like, "Oh, we should stop. If I see a license plate from New York, we're not gonna let you into our little town." Right? So I mean, who are we kidding here, man? This is all pie in the sky talk, and you can get as angry as you want and huff and puff. But you know what? At some point, we have to have a real discussion. You just can't keep pushing. We never shut down New York. If New York was such a threat, shut it the fuck down. They did it after 9/11. I couldn't leave Manhattan. I was trapped there. They shut down the bridges and tunnels. But we didn't do that. Can you understand why the average person who spends maybe 10 minutes a day on Twitter is confused by what we're seeing?
Not at all.
Well, I do. I can understand it.
So New York is just a total blip on the radar. New York is Lombard, Italy, and versus Milan in reverse. That's a Chinese philosophy. Happened in Wuhan. We wrapped it up. We opened up Wuhan. Beijing is not infected. There are no dead bodies, and there are no more new cases. It's going to stop. It's going to stop in New York, and it's going to stop in New Jersey. Philadelphia will not become infected beyond what it is. Boston will not become infected beyond what it is. Dallas will not become infected beyond what it is, and it will never go south into where it's already at in San Antonio. And then, of course, when California relaxes all their guidelines, that there will be no spikes in Los Angeles or in the Bay Area. Okay, that to me would be some incredible science to see on a blackboard. Really would be incredible. Because until you have the actual ability to antibody test, get the penetrance, know how far it's gone, know how many people already had it, know how many people already have the antibody within their system, or test in general and find out who has it and be able to do contact tracing, which is, of course, way gone. That horse is way out of the barn. That's not going to happen, except in smaller states. I believe the outbreaks won't really happen. In Nebraska, South Carolina has managed to keep a little bit of that under wraps. North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana's got some problems, but it's all per capita. So I guess my answer to you is you want the economy open. So you're just saying
I didn't say that.
Let's open it up. Let's open everything up.
Now you're projecting. I don't want the economy. I think the smart move was to shut things down. At the same time, some wild-eyed speculations have been going on the last 3 or 4 weeks. And I'm just pointing out that there are a lot of people who aren't going to spend days looking at this stuff. And to them, it just seems like the boy who cried wolf. I understand it. Right? I understand where they're coming from.
So you're part of the crew that says 3 years ago, over a 2-year period, 59,000 people died of the flu. And
no, because the flu season lasts like fucking 2 years. So the worst flu season we had was like 72,000 people died in a 2-year period. So even if you wanted to be unscientific, you slice that in half. So what do you got? 36,000 dead? We already have 20,000 dead from this COVID-19. And that's only what? A month? 2 months?
Not even 2 months, yeah.
So clearly whatever this thing is a lot more, has a lot more power and potency than our worst flu season. I don't think there's any question to that.
You've done a great job of trying to shoot little 22 shots in the barrel of water that I brought into the discussion, but what's your solution?
My solution would be that I think if we had a more open environment
What the
Because
fuck does
right
that mean?
now, if you try to ask any questions, like I know if I'd asked these people today, why are you wearing a surgical mask that doesn't fit your face properly? What benefit is that to you or anyone else? They would just react angrily, right? So
Well,
I mean,
the surgical mask is to prevent you, in case you're asymptomatic, from infecting others. So all it really has to do is stop the droplets directly from infecting any other. If you're wearing it so badly that droplets manage to shoot out the side of your mask,
exactly,
that's
right,
pathetic. But
right.
we're not wearing masks in order to not breathe in any other
Yeah, but what I'm
pathogens from
saying
others.
is that I'm looking around and everyone is wearing surgical masks and none of them fit their faces properly. And there are gaps. I can see the gaps. And I'm thinking you might as well be wearing nothing. There's no point to it.
Well,
There's no
considering the
point to
fact
it.
that every medical expert said you could wear a handkerchief or a fucking scarf if you wanted to, because it will possibly cut down on the droplets expelled by you, a potential carrier of the fucking disease. It is certainly not about you trying to preserve your health from others by wearing a mask. That's never been anything they've ever said about wearing a mask in public. It's to save other people from
Yeah.
potentially getting hit with your droplets.
I just think that, look, if you can't see that we're living through some kind of mass hysteria, I don't know what to tell you. That's how I see it,
Well,
at least.
I'm not saying that I'm just asking you to delineate what mass hysteria means and what the federal government is doing wrong, what the state government is doing wrong, and what your solutions would be.
Well, I don't know. I mean, what is the federal government doing wrong? I think for one, they haven't really. What I'm seeing is a lot of what. In order to believe what's going on, you have to forget what you were told last week. Because Fauci and his teams aren't have never been strong at explaining why things are changing. They'll ignore it. They'll just ignore the change and pretend like, oh, we never really needed to change anything because we never said that, when they did. And that's why, at least only speaking for myself, I've kind of lost interest in the whole situation. I'm resigned to it. I'm like, listen, they're going to open things up when they're going to open things up. And it doesn't really matter what I think. And clearly they don't want to answer any, you can't really have a discussion with anyone about it. Either you agree 100% or, you're an idiot. I get that. But, wasn't it just a week ago, 10,000 people were going to die this week? 10,000 people didn't die this week. So why were people saying that? And why don't they tell me why they were saying that and what changed? And don't give me this horse shit about, oh, we did such a great job on mitigation. Come on, man. Nothing has changed mitigation wise in the last 2 weeks. We're locked down. People get it. But the prediction was wrong. It was based on something. But we can't discuss that. And here's my other prediction on this. We never will discuss it. It will become the fodder for diseased minds to speculate about, like the Twin Towers having controlled demolitions. We're still arguing about that 20 years later because we've never really had a discussion, a proper discussion. I remember after 9/11, this nonsense started, and no one really said, well, this is impossible, and let's go to the original architectural drawings and see why it's impossible. Instead, people were just attacked. And I'm guilty of that. I would just attack people. So I'm
Well,
trying
certainly
not to do it.
the data is being informed by other countries, not just ours. So clearly, we've got 50% of the cases in one metro area.
Yeah,
That's what we're using.
exactly.
So
I would trust our data.
why would we not use the Italy or Spain or France information? Like, is it a different virus over there? No, it's not. It's just if you add up their population for the top 5 countries, you end up with what the U.S. population is. You add up their mortality rate; they certainly don't have any second-rate medical care systems over there. They might be short of a few essentials that we have, but I don't understand this. So your point is that they missed off on a model when in New York, instead of 10,000 people dying, 4,800 people died. So you're saying that people should have been at work at Wall Street then. People should have been working the New York Stock.
But I'm not saying
New
that.
York Stock Exchange.
That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just
Otherwise,
saying
you
what
have
is
no point at all.
well, my
Otherwise,
point.
you have no point
the
at
point
all.
I'm trying to make is all of this. What I see is goosing numbers. That's what scientists do, especially when they're trying to prove their theory right. They tend to overstate.
How the fuck is a virus a theory? I mean, how is a virus a theory? If you're going to look at it as a theory, then you would look at the theorem of mortality in Europe and apply it to our general population based on one case per out of every 100,000 citizens. It's not a fucking theory. It's a goddamn virus. It has what it does. The infection rate is 10 times what flu is. 10 times. And I've heard a lot of people telling me about, the flu has been deadly in the past, but I've never seen anything like the infection rate with this. And I've also never seen anything that can kill this quick and this often and this harshly. Those flu seasons are over, as you said, you can start in November of 19 and it goes all the way through April of 2020. And we lost 23,000 souls up from the flu season between the A and B strains in this past flu season. And we're already within the next week, we're going to eclipse that. And we're not even sure where we're spiking. So your assumption presumes that major metropolis that are out there, Detroit, if you look at Detroit right now, getting ready to spike. You've got some issues down in Florida. They're going to get ready to spike. We've got a couple issues down in Dallas. They're going to spike. So you have to understand that if we're 25% of the way through this process, we are looking at 60,000 deaths over the entire summer. Most of the people in the summer, it'll be, and by the way, we're not even counting nursing homes. I don't know if you read the articles all day today, but they stopped counting nursing homes and they refused to submit that information to the government. And they've already estimated that in excess of 2,200 people have already been killed by COVID in nursing homes that have not been included in the numbers. So forget this whole thing like, oh, heart attacks are down. Does that mean they're counting all the heart attacks to COVID? No, what it means, if you swab the inside of the fucking nose of a patient alive or dead, COVID-19 is present, you're going down as a COVID fucking mortality, simply because it has been already proven to attack neurology, in some cases, neurological, cardiac, intestinal, and then for the majority of it is, of course, pulmonary.
Yeah, that's nonsense.
What are you talking about nonsense? They've already talked about myocarditis.
That is shameful. What you've just said is shameful because what they're doing.
1 in 5 fucking deaths.
What they're doing
have already been
is
myocarditis.
if I hit a deer and I go through the windshield and they swab my nose, I will also be a COVID-19 death.
No, you're not. You obviously know that that's not true. That's not how they're doing it. And if you need to fucking ask somebody, go ask somebody about it.
Well, you want to use European, and that's what they're doing in Europe. Right? So all these numbers that are coming out of Europe and Spain, in Italy, that's how they're doing it. And I have serious questions about how they're classifying deaths here in this country. I do, because I've seen.
Are we getting bonus checks per death now or something? What is your theorem based on here? What is your hypotheses? That we're using elevated death rates in order to put some tyrannical fucking powers at play in New York City so de Blasio can whip his dick out? I mean, what are you saying?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I don't know why they're doing it. I don't know about anyone's dick being whipped out, but I'm just saying that if the way you're going to count these things is anyone who tests positive and who dies is a COVID-19 death, I think is a joke. That's a joke.
But you understand that if you die of some other issue that is not related directly to COVID-19, that if you don't count them, they might not have died, probably wouldn't have died without the aggravating factors of COVID-19. So how do you exclude them?
But I see what you're saying.
And how many pathologists do you think when we have trucks overloaded, frozen morgue trucks, bodies flying out? We're burying people on Hard Island. So ask me in New York, how many forensic pathologists are working on these autopsies to find out whether or not what the true cause of death was? How do you manage resources in a situation like that?
Well, we seem to be jumping around. So Hard
Well, we're
Island.
not jumping around. You just said that it's bullshit and you see inflated numbers.
I do.
Which means, how do we get them down? We would need pathologists to do autopsies and find out that, oh, it really wasn't. This COVID was still up in his throat, nose area, never made it down to the lungs, and this was a different issue. Exactly. Who the fuck is doing that right now in New York? I mean, we can't do anything in that area. We can't bury anybody. You can't intern anybody. It's massive death within a matter of 2 weeks. You're talking about a big time death. 7, I don't even understand how many people have
big time death. Okay, let's talk about the big time death. 8,650 big time deaths in New York as of today. So New York City's incapable of processing 9,000 bodies
in 2 weeks.
That could be a problem.
But I would fucking say so.
But you put them on ice.
This is where are we putting them?
Well, I mean, the ones that have families, I guess they put them on ice, and the ones that don't are going to the Potter's Field
Well, I can tell you where they're building morgues, and it's not right there. It's other places. It's Chicago. It's Detroit. It's because they see what's happening in New York and they know they can't handle it. So what they're doing is they're building morgues.
Yeah, but that's what they do in the military as well. It's not like this is a new thing.
When's the last time we lost that many people in any military conflict within this time constraint?
World War II.
I don't even think Quezon. I don't even think Quezon, to be honest with you. No, definitely not Quezon. So I don't know if we have to go back to some World War II, Battle of the Bulge, maybe.
World War II.
Are people not understanding what's happening?
But you see, people not understanding what's happening. So you have 20,000 total deaths in the United States, 8,650 in New York, 2,183 in New Jersey, and 1,392 are Michigan.
Yep.
So if you don't live in those states or near those states, I'm going to ask you again, can't you see that an average...
It's going to die out. It's going to stop there. It's going to be the first one that just stops there. That's fucking awesome. Because it was going to stop in Barcelona and then it hit Madrid. Then it was going to stop in Milan, then it hit Florence, and then it hit Lombard and Rome. UK was going to do herd mentality. Let's go out and get the herd immunity thing. That didn't work. We nearly lost the leader of that fucking country. I'm looking around at all these countries, France, and Macron is now begging for hydroxychloroquine because he's not on the same calendar curve that we are. I'm really, really fascinated by this, that the 182 countries that are impacted by a pandemic around the world, we're going to be insulated because we grow corn in Iowa and Kansas, and nobody goes there. Nobody fucking is going to contract anything. And we're going to be okay because, Governor Abbott's opening up a good portion of Texas for business before Trump's 30 days are even done. Listen, I'm not advocating for any longer than 30 days. I want the fucking 30 days done. Give us a data point. Is it that fucking hard?
At first it was 2 weeks, right?
Yeah. How those 2 weeks
You
look?
said, and I will quote you, I'm only saying 2 weeks. I'm going to have a big problem if this is more than 2 weeks. But then...
Without data?
Then it became 30 days.
You weren't... Okay, great.
And
I'm glad you said that.
No discussion happened.
I'm glad you said that. Because let's take how many New York deaths have happened. New York, Metro, Jersey area deaths have happened since those 2 weeks. If we would have just done with it. I mean,
You
I
have
can't even
also
tell you how many deaths
mentioned
there would
you
be.
have also mentioned that as these things are being lifted, it's not going to be done in a blanket way. It will be done piecemeal. Some areas will be getting the lifting orders earlier than others, and that makes a lot of sense, right? So why should where is the logic that because in New York has a particularly bad situation? I think mainly because no one has cars. Everyone uses mass transit. They're stacked on top of each other. They share elevators, et
Plenty of
cetera, et
things. So
cetera.
please just bring me two. Thank you.
Right?
Okay, so we're done with New York. Is that it? You
No,
think we
I'm
have a
just look.
downside?
I'm asking you. It was 2 weeks. Now we're talking about May 1st suddenly. We were talking about April 1st. Then it became May 1st, but no discussion was ever had on what changed and why. It was just
Are you
accepted.
kidding me?
It was just accepted.
They didn't have any data points in New York that said, "Holy shit, we're at the forefront of hell." After 2 weeks, they didn't even start fucking mitigation in New York until the end of those 2 weeks. Mitigation only really started at the beginning of this freaking month.
Well, I mean, maybe to the government, but the people in New York started avoiding each other well before the government was aware of it.
Well, then why are so many dying?
I explained it. No one wants to listen. As a lifetime resident of New York City, there's no way to fucking distance yourself. You can't. The only way in New York City that you're going to really socially distance yourself is if you never leave that front door. And that means you've got enough food in your apartment, you never have to leave. But as soon as you leave, everything becomes a question mark. Should I touch the button in the elevator bank? I wonder. Should I open that front door? I don't know. Should I go into the supermarket? There's everything becomes a question mark. Out here, as ridiculous as a lot of this stuff is, there's no one here. I mean, the reason why we have no cases at all in my county is the worst place, at least from my estimation, the worst place I've seen is Home Depot. But there's never anyone there, so it's kind of a joke. 6 or 7 people on the line is not going to be a problem. But in Manhattan, I mean, I've got videos every day from we have someone living in our apartment. And they're sending videos daily, sometimes more than once a day. And it's crazy, the lines that you see in Manhattan. People are lining up for bullshit. And I don't know about you, Adam, but I'm thinking I would rather take my chances pressing that button on the elevator bank than waiting on a line with 50 people for like toilet paper.
You control the transmission of this disease.
Yeah.
You do. It's each person's personal responsibility. If you're touching an elevator button or you're touching anything, it's not being absorbed through your skin. Okay, so you clean your hands through sanitizing or washing. You do not touch your face during that period.
Well,
and if someone's coughing in your vicinity, you leave that vicinity immediately. There are ways to get around
I get it.
Actually being infected.
All right, so the scenario I used several weeks ago when someone asked me why I think New York City is such a nightmare. Here's the scenario. Let's say I've got it. I'm a carrier, and I do a nice big cough and exit the elevator. The elevator then goes up 2 floors. It takes about 4 or 5 seconds. The doors open. There's no one in there. And the person walks in thinking, oh, thank God, there's no infected person in here. But in fact, what do you think just happened, right?
Judging by the limited evidence that aerosol or aerol, whatever they call it, is still in the air for a little bit.
Yeah.
But we don't know. But
Listen, Adam, do you understand why my paranoia level went to 0 as soon as I left New York about this stuff? Right? The only time I ever think about coronavirus is when I get in my truck and have to leave the farm. Otherwise, it doesn't exist in my world.
You have that ability.
I do.
Because of your decision that took you to where you are. You put yourself in a position to not have to worry about that. And if you think that doesn't disassociate you intellectually from the reality that everybody else is facing. You're crazy.
No, what I'm saying is
you have a completely different perspective than I do on
exactly.
it. Because I live in a metro fucking region,
right?
And I have 2 kids to fucking care for.
You got it.
And my wife has to go to the grocery store once every 2 fucking weeks, and I have to deal with every mitigation tactic I could possibly can to avoid everybody getting infected.
And what I'm trying to explain, what started this, is I asked you, can't you understand why a majority of people in the United States don't see this the way you do? And you said no. And I started to try to explain why I can understand why they don't think it's the same thing that you think it is.
Yeah.
Because they don't live in New York City. They don't live in New York City. No one they know has it. Okay. They're thinking about their Easter and how they're not going to be able to go and have their normal Easter service. And they're pissed.
Okay. Great.
But that's the reality. Great. It would be different
I had a flight plan to go to Texas shortly after 9/11. It was canceled. I couldn't do it because the airline industry was shut down. A lot of plans for people. My sister was taking my niece over to Rome in June to celebrate her making distinguished honor roll again, and she can't go. Everything's shut down. Those are inconveniences, and the fact that people in this country are trying to elevate their inconveniences with death and destruction and disruption of social services makes no fucking sense to me. And the fact that people think we can open up parts of the country as long as New York is locked down and California is locked down. And by the way, Trump doesn't make that call. And certainly Dr. Fauci doesn't make that call.
No.
That call is made by Governor Newsom. That call is made by Cuomo. And if you shut down our GDP in those 2 states, it's a limp dick response to anything anyway when you start things back up. Our biggest problem is everybody has to find out some truth that is not even real. And in order to find the truth that's not real, you need to question your government, the information they're giving you. Someone's got to be lying to you. And this is just another iteration of it. It never ends. In my lifetime, it has never ended. Since 9/11, Bush blew up the towers, and everything thereafter was all, Bush invaded Iraq because Saddam tried to kill his father when he was president. Or Halliburton needed a big contract and Dick Cheney got it for him. Or we wanted to steal the oil, if you recall that one, which is all ridiculous. It would have been a war crime to do that. Or right up to the Trump administration, we're going to war with Syria. We're going to have 150,000 troops in there. And, so on and so forth. And everybody's going to jail. And now, it just never fucking ends. It never fucking ends. And now the latest thing is, don't believe your government. Don't believe Trump when he says that he's seen a lot more than anyone else in his task force. Don't believe him. Don't believe the Surgeon General. Don't believe Dr. Birx. Don't believe Dr. Fauci. Don't believe Al-Azhar. Don't believe Mike Pence. Don't believe FEMA head. Don't believe the admirals that are in charge of testing and logistics. They're all lying to you for some reason that I can't figure. I'm really trying to figure out why they're lying to us.
Well, you should ask the families of the Vietnam veterans that died of cancer who were exposed to Agent Orange and were lied to by every fucking person in this government, from the smallest bureaucrat up to the goddamn president of the fucking United States. And to this day, they have not apologized. It's all hush-hush.
We did it. I mean, those reports have been released. We've already acknowledged that the military did that for defoliation, and we made some payouts, but obviously not enough for all the people that have been infected.
Obviously. Listen,
but that was us.
I can tell
us. We didn't do this in a wet market in fucking Wuhan, man. All right, and we didn't allow 200,000 fucking Chinese garment workers to fly from Wuhan to fucking Milan.
Is that you're talking about you have some incredulous idea that people think the government could be lying to them. And I'm telling you, in my own lifetime, I have seen the government lie to us over and over and over again.
You're comparing anecdotal apples to axiomatic apples. Which one is it? Is it occasionally, or is it every motherfucking time?
It's most of the time. They're concealing something.
Then why are we protesting these limited measures of our civil liberties?
I'm not protesting them, actually.
No, I'm just asking everybody in general why they're so worried about whether they can go to a four walls and a roof church tomorrow.
Well, I think you're right.
Maybe your faith isn't strong enough.
No, I think you're right. Because they're whiners.
Okay, maybe they want to get drunk together. 60 people want to get drunk and hang out.
It's interfering with, listen, it's like when I was a teenager, my parents grounded me, and it's interfering with my social life, and I'll complain a lot and mope around the house, right? But I shouldn't have stolen the car without, getting my dad's permission or whatnot. I mean, I think you're right. There is a lot of belly aching going on about things that really aren't that important. And you have a valid point that New York City, could have, potentially might, but looks like could have been a flashpoint and started spreading this stuff to other metropolitan areas. Because best I can tell, it looks like in rural areas, this virus has a lot more of a hockey stick to climb. But it seems to like these urban areas a lot. And so, yeah, this thing could have gotten out of hand. Listen, by the way, I'm not against the shutdown. I'm just saying that I think it's just a tad myopic to not at least understand from the average person's perspective, and I do understand it, that from their vantage point, not being in Manhattan, not being in Los Angeles, being in the middle of nowhere, like out here in Wayne County, Pennsylvania, my wife had to get a blood test, and they actually asked to see, you'll like this story, I want to see your ID. They showed the ID, it's a New York State ID. And the woman at the desk said, "Oh, we don't accept New York State people at this hospital. You have to leave." They were going to kick her out until she said, "Well, listen, I own a house here. When was the last?" And then they said, "How long has it been since you've been in New York State?" And she said, "Oh, it's been a month." And they're like, "Okay." Now, I mean, she could have been, I'm just looking at it as a management thing. Why would you trust my wife? She could be lying. She could have just come from New York yesterday. But all right, people trust each other. That's okay. So she had her blood tested. And the conversation, of course, over the blood test with the nurse was about COVID-19. And my wife asked her, "So have you seen a lot of cases?" She goes, "In our county, we've had none. Zero. Zero cases, zero deaths." And my wife asked, "Why are you so paranoid then?" She goes, "Oh, only if we see New York or New Jersey driver's license, because our understanding is that's where it's really active now." And so I'm just saying, why are New Yorkers allowed to leave the state? I mean, can't the governor, is it, you answer, because I don't know, is it that the governor is feeling if he completely robs New Yorkers their right of travel, that might impact him politically? Because logically,
he'll be shot down in court fucking within 72 hours. There'll be an injunction in place.
Okay, but so he may even prevail at some point in court. It's just immediately there'd be the injunction, so it's like nothing happened.
He wouldn't do it anyway because it's a loss of voters. You don't do that. People want to leave, and he's not gonna argue with it. Frankly, he's also looking at them as potentially infected, and if some other state less impacted by this has more hospital beds and ventilators, by all means, let him out. I mean, this is federalism, and it could lead to historic problems in a pandemic. I'm really more fascinated with this notion that this is gonna just self-contain in this area, and it's just gonna die out. It's just gonna die out.
Well, the good news about people in New York City is very few of them have cars. That's been a truism my whole life. Unlike LA, where everyone has a fucking car. In New York City, most people don't have them. So how are they going to leave? You know, to take a PATH train? Well, that'll get you to Jersey. Then what? I just don't you. You need to explain it to me, because I don't understand. If New York City is such a hot zone, you have to understand, out here in Wayne County, people are looking at it going, if it's so bad, how come they're all able to leave in their cars and drive here? That's a lot of the things I'm hearing out here, which is, if I see any New York license plates, ... and I'm like, okay. And I'm just thinking, yeah, good job. I switched mine to Pennsylvania 6 years ago, right?
I guess I don't see where this has anything. I mean, if we're talking present time, if we're taking a snapshot, and now we're talking about what's happening right now, that's not the way you do things in government. I mean, frankly, it's just not. It's just like, all right, I got this contained in this area right now. I can give you, as a president, I can give you a count. As FEMA, I can give you a count on our ability to handle people coming in, and that goes on the military side too. But I can't tell you anything about, other than how infectious this is, and it'd be very unlikely, Mr. President, that it would just die here. It doesn't go anywhere. And so for all these people, listen, I'm not saying I want the country shut down past the 30th. And by the way, the country is not shut down. It's not. Not every state has any shutdown order at all. Some states have very modified shutdown orders where you can still do a lot of shit.
I mean, Georgia, look at you're talking about New Texas. York. New York is one of the freest states, and it's got the most deaths. Right? They didn't close down the liquor store. You can buy tobacco. The only thing they really shut down are like the movie theaters. Any place you're going to see more than, let's say, 10 or 15 or 20 people congregated have been regulated. The bigger ones closed. And restaurants, that's a major inconvenience for a New Yorker. But they can still, listen, they can get on an airplane. There are still planes flying in and out of LaGuardia and JFK. So I don't know, people are complaining, oh, they shut it down. But to me, shut down means you can't go anywhere.
No, obviously, we worked with the airlines to cut down on hotspot to hotspot. I mean, you still get New York flights out, but not directly to hotspots that are happening. You know, a New York flight to Detroit would be problematic. A New York flight to Chicago or New Orleans would be, possibly traumatic. It's very hard to do. It's going to be a very difficult, quote unquote, startup process. And I think right now, none of us are on the same page, because this virus has managed to not only, I said earlier in a tweet, 2 Americas. This isn't 2 Americas. This is like 14 Americas, based on where people are impacted on this whole thing. And I just think we've been embarrassing, naive, childish in the way that most of our people have responded on social media, and largely ignorant of the realities that are going on in Europe, and just thinking somehow that's not going to happen to us, and thinking somehow the good old American sunshine is just going to kill this virus. And, in some ways it might, but there's still going to be a large segment of our population that are going to have to protect themselves.
Definitely.
And they happen to be the same segment that we need to vote in November. So.
But see, this is what's interesting from my perspective watching Gingrich, is that I'll be explicit about it. I think that the medical aspect of what we're going through, from almost the time this hit the newspapers, it became less medical for the way I saw it, at least. From the very first day of media coverage, it became it was political first, medical second. And the media tried to use it as a hammer to take out the president again, yet again. And they're still trying, although I got to say they've lost a lot of their gusto in the last couple of days. But that said, I find it interesting that when you talk about the virus, sometimes you're trying to talk about it scientifically, but then you'll veer into the political realities. And I assume it's because you see both at the same time, right? It's just depending on which way.
No, I just see dead bodies. And when I see dead bodies, I know that those are not only people that can't vote for Donald Trump, but that their families won't vote for Donald Trump because he will be the ultimate decider on all of this, and he'll be the ultimate pin the tail on the donkey target. So I'm just trying to explain to people that dead bodies are just, for every dead body, the coronavirus, it's like 10,000 jobs lost in any particular area as far as how it goes into the voting consciousness of Americans. And if they can exploit that, if things die out the way that, it'll be an Easter miracle to me, even if it only happens 2 weeks from now. If we have less than 50,000 people dead nationwide by Memorial Day, and we have already ramped up 75% of unaffected areas and their corresponding businesses, we'll still have mitigations and separations and all that stuff. But, if we can still get things up and running prior to Memorial Day, giving us a chance to get a full head of speed going into July 4th, which most people will tell you is total bullshit. I don't think it is total bullshit. I'm actually bullish on this stuff. Like that's the weirdest part about it. I'm bullish
Me
on
too.
our ability to do things to get this thing under control. Very bullish on the fact we're not waiting 12 months or even 16 for an effective vaccine. I think that a lot of people are going to look back and they're going to see that they decided to act like whiny, pissy babies instead of real Americans, and they don't step up, and they're not looking to step up. They're not looking to help other Americans. And I can tell you that most people in food banks, which are, by the way, overwhelmed right now, most volunteers are like my dad, in the mid 70s, and he can't do that right now because of the concerns of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody steps up to do it. So I guess I'm going to have to do it or whatever. We got some high school students now doing it. Nobody's doing anything but bitching and moaning and fucking complaining. And I think it's pathetic. Like I usually like to come to the rescue of the American spirit and how we rally behind a tragedy in our country. But what I see now is just I see a factionalized society of those who have what they need, no threat from it, really. And they just look at people from afar and say, hey, hope you live. If not, whatever. That's crazy. And we're going into Easter tomorrow, and people want to use Easter as an excuse to express their civil liberties and their civil rights, which I think is a fucking joke, considering that this country was founded on our ability of religious freedom, but also founded on the ability to protect minority people and the overall prevailing success and health of the country. So I think we're really missing the boat here with this whole, if you need your preacher tomorrow, if you're that way, if you need to hear your preacher in person instead of online, or your priest or whatever the hell it is, I think you're probably a weak person. Don't mind saying that. I think that your faith is weak if you require that some type of human, dispensation of, celebrating the resurrection of Christ. Uh, I'm not a big fan of it. Not a big fan of it at all. Bill Gomez says we need more testing and improved treatment. We can start rocking and rolling. I get it, but we're just not hitting all the metrics that we need to hit, and a lot of it is because we're so reticent to hit back on the Defense Production Act stuff. But honestly, the time has come and gone. Let's get the Abbott testing out there in physical form. We know we have the laboratory capacity to deal with whatever we need. Very, very disturbed that we haven't done better on that front. So, I know Navarro, Alazar, the president, they've been pushing as hard as they can. Chica's been talking a lot, and I've been missing a lot of her comments. I'm going to read one. I was unemployed for 2 fucking months, but pardon me if I don't want to lose a job. I just started last week within a month because we're losing revenue like crazy. Well, then if that's a critique of the fact that we only did 350 billion instead of 500 or 600 billion for small business loans, then I agree with you. Outside of that, you'd have to explain your comment to me.
Oh, you see this? Nuala333 says she can't see her grandkids tomorrow because she's had contact with the COVID people, the patients. She's had contact with COVID patients. Listen, good for you being on the front line and all. Yeah, it looks like, oddly, there are people that don't like your comment about not going to a public service on Easter. It's I think it's really hard to try to convince people out of these like long-held multi-generational family traditions, Yeah, there's a lot of people that are just reacting angrily. Well,
it must be on Periscope because I'm not seeing anything on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm on Periscope. I'm going back and forth, but let's see. On Periscope, he says, Chris 048. It's easy for a bunch of government people with jobs that are still being paid to close my shit down. By the way, Adam, that's a very common attitude. And you know me, I don't leave, I don't go anywhere. People rarely call me, wonder why. But the few people I do interact with, even strangers at the Home Depot, this is what I hear. This is like word for word what I'm hearing on those rare occasions I talk to other people. Is that it's easy for these government people to shut things down while I'm out here, whatever, alone and lonely with nobody. See, Base Chica says exactly.
Yeah, I get that. I get multiple things here. We get that those who choose to gather have no respect for their own. I agree. I mean, they're putting other people at risk. If your faith is contingent upon some type of habit that you've built up over the last 20 years, then okay, I guess that's okay. Real 1 to 1 says, if I don't have your number, I'd call you.
She's saying to me that if she had my telephone number, she'd call me.
Yeah,
which is very nice.
Her on speakerphone. Call up. Put her on speakerphone. If she has something to say
No. She's saying that if I'm alone and lonely, she would call me up to cheer me up, which is very nice. And by the way, guys, if you think in any way that I'm taking the side of people going to these large gatherings of church services and that somehow Adam is the one against this, it's not true. I can't imagine bringing my family in a group setting of like hundreds of people or even 50 people. That seems crazy to me. I mean, I'll give you an example. I mean, I know for a fact that there are going to be many families doing Zoom Easter parties with the family. That's going to be a thing, and there's nothing wrong with that. With Zoom, you can have up to like 40 people. God help you understanding all 40 at the same, talking at the same time, but I think you'd have to have a couple of screws loose if you want. But then again, I mean, most of these people we're talking about are going to a church with maybe 10 or 15 people, and they're all spaced out, and they live in places. I don't want to be a broken record, but they live in places where nobody has it. So from their perspective, it's just this. It's almost like a big brother coming and telling them they can't worship in the way they're accustomed.
Well, listen, then I don't know, what some of this stuff is going on here. So I'm going to try to mitigate a little bit of the stuff outside of the disease and mitigate some of the chat here and try to figure out what's going on. High Turbine's making comments that I don't necessarily disagree with, by the way. Base Chica is having some issues with this. But telling High Turbine to go fuck himself, now I'm concerned, because now we've got two old school followers that maybe kind of misreading a natural intellectual disagreement between Glenn and I don't want that to get in and
Adam, I can guarantee you whatever we were talking about, this has nothing to do with their argument. I've been watching this carefully.
No, it's about what's shut down and not shut down.
Right. See, what I've been trying to say, perhaps badly, so let me try again. What I've been trying to communicate to you is that you may not understand where these other folks are coming from. I think I do. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I at least understand the thought process. And Base Chica for the last half an hour has been very strongly stating a position which is all over the Trump base. It's not just a few people. I'd say half of the people who voted for Trump are saying exactly what Base Chica is saying, which is her life is basically on the thin ice right now.
And she's acknowledging it because it's Whitmer. It's not Trump.
Right.
It's not the 30 days.
No one is blaming Trump.
Whitmer has done a whole thing. This is a whole different argument. You have to understand federalism in order to get to this whole thing. And this whole Dr. Fauci obsession is so absurd. We got one guy in a room, and the last two interviews I've heard from the guy is he's about as interested in getting the country as open as possible as anybody else is. And frankly, 8 out of 10.
He wants nothing more to do with this. I don't think he likes it anymore. It's not the fun that he thought this would be a couple of weeks ago. Not like the AIDS crisis, which could go on year after year and hardly anyone ever asked him anything. We got a lot of pissed off people, Adam, and they're really pissed off.
Pissed off at who?
See, and that's the best question I've heard all week. Really, who do you get? Here's a good question, Adam. Who do you get angry with when there really isn't just one person or two people? I think that's the main problem, is that we have people that are angry at their situation, and there's really no clear, other than the Chinese, which is, like that's ever going to be dealt with.
I get irritated with my governor when he makes dumb shit calls, like suspending appraisals, killing title agencies, killing home transfers, and it's just there are certain things like that. But most of my anger is directed towards a lax response from Italy and other European countries to the fact that we got to shut off this China flight pattern. Trusting China at all, I think, bad. Certainly not thrilled with the first 2 weeks of Trump's responses to this, but I think he's done more than enough to make up for that. And then I look at this, then I look at the people that are like, I put this money loan in for paycheck protection. I can't get it. I put this other loan program through. I can't get it. Well, you have to understand that the feds and the Treasury just put a giant amount of money and just dumped it into a very archaic and old structure that can not facilitate what it's been asked to do. And that's a shame. And so the rest of it, like B. Callie saying, my friends, kids can't graduate in a ceremony. Well, they can do that later if they want. Me, I didn't walk in mine, so I don't really care about that stuff. That's sentimentalism, but I assume that other people want to celebrate in person for the hundreds of thousands of dollars they probably wasted on their kid
Wait,
getting a degree.
you mean, hold it. You're telling me in 2020 you can't have a ceremony at some time in the future? How much could it possibly cost? Seriously?
Yeah, they will. It's just delayed.
Yeah. Yeah, delayed does not mean deleted. It means that,
Chris 048, if Fauci didn't lie and admitted his model was based, first Fauci had no model. There was
right.
no NIH model, nothing. Admitted his model based on full mitigation, I might believe you. Well, first of all, you ought to check into your shit. I'm no Fauci defender. I think his social commentary is fucking offensive and condescending. And I really want to hear one more war story about his fucking days in San Francisco, pulling hypodermic needles out of fucking AIDS patients on Haight-Ashbury corner. So don't confuse me with people that have any compassion at all for Fauci's social-driven missives that he likes to give on the stage. But he doesn't have a goddamn model. The models are provided by people who do that thing, and they change by the hour. You know why? Not because they pull it out of their asshole, but because that's what data does. Data. This whole thing is based on data. And again, I'm going to delve into this one more time, try to figure out what's going on here. Something that Scott said to Base Chica did not go over very well. I won't vote for her, but the remedy is in a bullet, you dipshit. Holy crap, this is bad. If this is true tyranny, then why
Where are you seeing
are you
these?
flipping out and not taking up arms? Which
Are
is a
you
pretty strong
scrolling back
statement.
on the YouTube chat? Is that what you're
Yeah,
doing?
I'm
Oh,
trying
so
to
I'm
figure out
looking
what's
for
going on
these
here.
things. I'm not seeing anything like that.
Isaac, great for you. I'm not retired, dude. I live alone. There's no second income. There's no fallback. I need to fucking work. Okay, we get that. Yeah, I think right now, Base is, at a period where she's pissed off, and I hope she's not misreading a lot of the argument, which is shooting 30,000 feet above the topics of what should be done or not be done on the state level. Michigan is a tough state right now for this whole thing. Illinois is a tough state. There's a lot of unemployment. There's a lot of lost jobs. There's a lot of frustration with our Senate package that was voted into law, trying to get it through the banks. There's a lot of the consternation with the IRS and Social Security Administration getting those checks out. It's not happening in time. People can't pay their cable bills, their car payments, in some cases, their mortgage. But most time you will seek and you will be given a waiver or forgiveness for some of that stuff. It may take a couple of phone calls and may be frustrating, but everybody knows this time sucks. Yeah, Kim, I didn't know who said deal with it. That's not something we're talking about here. So whoever said deal with it, it's a little bit of a strong statement. Look, I'm not just here to shoot my mouth off about what I believe, and I'm damn sure not here to argue with Glenn over something geographically related to a infection rate. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to open up a White Claw, fill up my glass, and read about what our comments about this situation are revealing. Because that's what this whole thing is about, to be honest with you. Without you guys, just be talking to each other. It wouldn't matter. We do have some people that are not happy, and they feel awful. They feel let down. I don't think they really want to hear us argue about this and that and the other thing. Do I think the Heroes Fund by the Dems will pass up to $25,000 for every worker on the front line? I just don't know. I think the issue is, can we get the small business fund doubled? And if we have to give up something else to get that, we'll do it. But frankly, we're getting blocked by the Democrats right now. We need to get that fund bigger, or else we're going to have a big time issue with small businesses. Holy cats. High Turbine is on a real kick over here.
Yes, but yeah, this is what I'm talking about, is that we don't have an environment where you can actually have a discussion about anything. We have an
It's pretty
environment where
emotional.
you will get shouted down. And it reminds me of another time in my life, many, many decades ago. Unlike you, Adam, I never have thought as an adult that the American people are rational. And I think we're all one or two meals away from burning each other at the stake for a can of baked beans. I know it's a dark view, but it is mine. Please discuss Michigan Governor Whitmer, Arit 55 says, and her clampdown tactics. When, how will Trump politically confront her once a plan to open the economy commences?
Well, I think she's on a list for Biden's VP slot. I think she overreached here. It's almost like she doesn't want the job. I think it's pretty bad. Obviously, Big Fish is in here. He'll tell you we've got issues in Wayne and Oakland County, in Detroit areas. We got to get those under control. But just limiting people from going up to their cabins and cottages in the northern part of Michigan, bad move. Doesn't work. And I think that Whitmer is clueless and witless.
It's too bad there's a guy with an account called something like happy for peanuts or love my peanuts, and I'm actually eating peanuts tonight. So that's Captain White Jean says, for the Gorka Blue Boy Fund. Let's see. I talked to him. He liked that one little comment about the Blue Boy magazines. I thought I was the only one who knew, but apparently there's another person in our audience who knows the evil of Blue Boy magazine.
Yeah, there is in fact having a petition to recall Whitmer. I think the more people sign that in Michigan, the less likely it is that she'll be selected for vice president nomination. But I got to think at this point also it'd be a pretty good thing for us if she was. Oh wow,
because she's poison. You're saying.
No, Emo, nothing's been said important at all. But thank you for waking up to join us on this Easter Eve occasion.
I think he woke up from his OxyContin haze.
No, I think it was more like a insulin and shortage induced type of thing where he probably ate so much earlier today that his body went into like shock, and now he wakes up to eat more. In preparation for whatever his wife is feeding him tomorrow, which will be enough to feed, I guess, all the kids in Ethiopia.
Well, for fear of getting your umbrage again, Adam, I have one more point you may not like, but this governor in Pennsylvania closing the liquor stores is maybe the single stupidest thing I have seen in my entire fucking adult life, and I'm not really that young anymore. I cannot believe that when you can't get hand sanitizer, that your only avenue of making your own antiviral, antibacterial hand washing, i.e. hard liquor, has been shut down. What the fuck? You know everything about Pennsylvania politics. Is this asshole going to take a hit for this, or is he just laughing?
We boxed his balls in and got the online access now, where it'll be delivered to your house. For you, that would probably take 3 weeks.
Well, then for me, I can drive 6 minutes to the New York border and buy whatever I want.
Yeah, that's a problem we had, and we warned.
But you've been telling me that what you got is what you got, and that there's really...
we had a lot of people driving into Maryland and Jersey and places with more caseloads than we have of COVID-19. So we told them, listen, asshole, you're causing a lot of issues. So they put it online, and we got it a day quicker than we thought. So I still have Bailey's to put in my coffee in the morning, because otherwise I can't tolerate the news cycles. And they did not have my Dixie Juice vodka, but I got my wife ordered a smaller bottle of something close to it, but I haven't dipped into it yet. But
it's probably better stuff than you would have bought, right?
Well, she's been keeping me supplied with White Claw. She'll get a 12-pack and say, this is yours for 2 days, make it last. So I can't have more than 6 in any given night, which that's probably okay. It's been working out so far.
I don't know what the NASCAR starting. Oh, I know what he's talking about. Yeah, NASCAR started. Yeah. Yes, I think you're right. NASCAR started as just like a bunch of people getting together and watching a bunch of assholes race their cars, like in a muddy field or something.
Yeah,
like that, right?
Up and down the northeast coast, they jack up their vehicles, run them with the lights off, and then they would in daytime they would go down and have brazen beach races in Florida and North Carolina, and that's how NASCAR started. Yeah, it's true. Bootleggers.
Yeah, a lot of those guys were driving old man Kennedy's trucks, right?
Yeah, further northeast, yeah, they probably didn't race down in the south, but yeah, further, as they say, Norte, West Virginia. Yeah, Kennedy's father made a lot of money on bootleg, a lot of money.
So do you think that this Pennsylvania governor has taken any political hit?
No, I mean our cases are we're a lot like Florida. Like we have a pretty high caseload of infections. Not that high, about 22 to 25,000. But our mortality rate isn't that bad yet. But it's centered around, like I said, on the eastern side, Monroe, Luzerne, down into Lehigh, into Philadelphia, and some of the pocket counties around Philadelphia. So we're just kind of waiting to see if it busts west. If it does, then clearly we're gonna have a problem. We'll be in the front line. Harrisburg, Hershey metro area will be in the front row. And then if it gets to central, and you get into Center County and PA, I'm sorry, Penn State, even with the kids out there, there's still enough people. It would be a problem, but I don't see it right now. I mean, DeWine has done a pretty good job in Ohio from keeping it to bleeding down into our Pittsburgh region. So we've been fairly fortunate thus far. I just don't believe that that's going to be sustainable. I just don't. I mean, what part of a virus has ever respected a border? So as much as I hope I'm right, all we really need to do is get through another 5 months of this. Not mitigation or all that, but just without overwhelming our system. I think we can get through the summer. If this thing is seasonal, I think we've got a real shot. Like I've said many times, we have, I think, one of the quickest vaccines that'll be put into play in the history of vaccines. I think you're going to see that on frontline workers, healthcare workers, and military personnel by November 1st. So I am extremely confident on that front.
Well, that's good to hear. So, when you look at the next 3 or 4 months, you're thinking if it's August 1st and there's no new flare ups, then what? We're going to we're back to some sort of normality as far as the political situation, the the presidential campaign and all.
It could be earlier than that. I think might be certain parts of the country, and I don't want to guess. I'm not a scientist. I don't know how this thing's going to move. I'm not a virologist. I'm not an epidemiologist. I'm not in any way, more in tune with what's going on than anybody else. We know that I did, speaking to the question here from Chris Vaden, I did email several prominent baseball writers that I have corresponded with over the years. I've asked for what kind of task force the commissioner has in play. I've suggested a few ideas that just make sense from other things that we're doing. I think everybody would be willing to walk in on opening day and pay an extra $2 surcharge on ticket and get a mask. It says Phillies, and wear your surgical mask, and know that the stadium will be sanitized by whole, big industrial equipment. So I have not heard, and I have not, none of the three reporters have responded back to me. And that was 2 days now. So maybe they're investigating, maybe they're asking the commissioner's office. I think it's pretty clear that Trump asked the NFL to be prepared to start on time, and the NBA, it's unlikely we're going to get that NHL NBA playoff thing going. People have been out too long. But as far as baseball, I've suggested that they do a 2-week period in each home state and stadium. Bring up your minor league players, do scrimmages as you would spring training for 2 weeks. No crowd, just you've got Abbott testing kits that can do 15 minutes. You can test every player in the dugout or in the clubhouse, every personnel that works at the stadium. It can be tested, results known in 15 minutes or less. There's no threat to the player safety. And then, you work on contributing mitigation efforts too. But I think it's very important because I think baseball is America's pastime. And that would really signify a start towards something. Whether it's normalcy or not, I don't know. I just know that when Bush put on the bulletproof jacket and went out there after 9/11 to throw that first pitch out in the World Series, that wasn't a World Series, though, was it? No, that was a playoff game or something.
Yeah, it was just a game because
it was just a game. It was September, yeah.
But the symbolism was it was in New York.
Yeah, it was in New York, and he did it, and that was like 3 days after, maybe. I don't remember. But
Giuliani needed that. I mean, he was a mess. He was cracking, and I think it really helped having the president come here. I think it bolstered him.
Oh, it was a World Series. Yeah, Shane's right. We had it earlier then.
Diamondbacks.
It was Diamondbacks Yankees World Series.
But Chris is saying that it was the Mets Braves was the first game after 9/11. But I don't think the president was at that.
No, he didn't throw out the pitch. But that might have been the. I don't know. That doesn't make any sense.
Because
I don't know
fuck the Mets.
Works.
That's why.
I'm not going to pretend to remember 20 fucking years ago right now.
That was a weird time. That was a weird time. The nation
it very well could have been weeks later. It could have been weeks later by the time we sent Bush out there. By the time everything really settled down, probably was a World Series. So
I think most of the insanity we're seeing, the frustration you're feeling, is because this is an election year. And no one at these press conferences, I think, will state this, but that all the marbles, politically speaking, are on the table for this election. And I think that's why we're seeing everything is being highly politicized. I mean, everything. You think if President Trump went to the opening game, there wouldn't be a ton of boos? There would. I bet Emo would boo him at this point.
Emo, the famous Yankees fan that can't name a single player on the fucking team.
He's like most New Yorkers.
Yeah, it's just like...
It's like this slavish, cultish love of the Yankees. I never really even liked baseball, but I make fun of Mets fans. How is that in any way logical? It's not. Meanwhile, feisty Latina is rolling in the dough. She's rolling in the dough. She's got her 2 clients in Illinois, Chicago that aren't dead yet, and they're paying her. Well, that's the thing, freedom of speech. This Trump having blood on his hands started like day one. Day one.
Yeah.
This has been political from day one. They never gave him a chance as president. He was a Russian spy on day one. And so I think that's why, at least whatever my opinion's worth, that's why I think half of our base don't believe any of this bullshit. They see it all as just political posturing.
Yeah, and when you get to body counts and you have people dispelling them, that's where I draw the fucking line.
Listen, I'm telling you, unless there's 100,000 dead people, you're not going to convince anyone.
I really don't think there's going to be 100,000 dead people, but I think there's probably by mid-July 50,000 dead people. And I think that there are people that are out there saying, well, we lost, 60 and some flu. Well, guess what? We already lost 25,000 people in this flu season. So tack on another fucking 75 and you've got yourself a fucking tragedy right there. So
well,
I just
you have a tragedy. You have a tragedy, yes, but it's not like everyone died in a month. I'm just saying you're spacing
pretty close. They're pretty close. They're a couple of months.
If you're talking August, September,
you're talking about late February to July, and you lose 50,000 people. That's fucking crazy, man.
It's crazy.
That's nuts.
But I think the bulk of them will be in New York, New Jersey, and probably Michigan. And so for someone sitting in in the middle of Nebraska.
Yeah, I get it. Crazy move.
This is why I'm torturing you tonight.
20 million unemployed people. I get it.
Yes, I'm just trying to get you to say that. That's what I've been waiting for you to say is, okay, I understand where they're coming from. I'm not even saying I agree with it, but I have a sympathy for it because from their perspective, this thing is completely overblown. At least, I talk to people here in the Podunk, Pennsylvania. There are no cases here. Social distancing is a 24/7, 365 lifestyle choice out here. And they don't understand why they're making people queue up, all 6 of them, to go into Home Depot. And frankly, I don't either. It doesn't make, to me, there shouldn't be a one size fits all. That's where we get into the problem. And then you yell at people saying, well, you just wait till the bodies start. But I don't think we're going to be seeing any bodies in Wayne County, Pennsylvania. I think we'll see a lot if they're going to be in the Philadelphia area. That's where we're going to see them. Maybe I'm wrong. I generally keep my mouth shut, but I'm at the point now where, I don't think
I get what's happening now. I get this whole everything's overblown, and people are never going to change their mind on it.
No,
so if it goes from 23,000 deaths to 65,000 deaths, people are going to be like, yeah, well, the original chart said 2 million.
Exactly. Now you get it. That's exactly what's happening.
But you understand that anti-intellectualism.
Of course I do. Of course I do.
Never follow that.
But it doesn't matter. What I'm trying to tell you is forget logic for a second. Try to understand how they're thinking this thing.
Right? I'm never going to excuse that. I'm never going to excuse that in the name of politics, ever, because they're going to blame Trump for overreacting. So how is that beneficial to my political gain?
Well, they don't necessarily blame Trump. They could blame. We're seeing
they're fucking watching Twitter.
They're blaming Fauci. They think Fauci is like
they're blaming Fauci,
a Svengali-like figure
on his. Listen, I can't help you if you're blaming Fauci for this kind of stuff because then you're a mental midget who doesn't understand how government works.
They may not understand.
Unelected people. Let me bring this up real close. Unelected people in the United States of America do not make policy decisions. Do you understand me? Unelected people do not make policy decisions in the United States of America. Any questions?
But so you're saying you don't think that all of those doctors at the NIH and the CDC don't have political clout or the ability to kind of force the president's hand on things?
To what end? What are you saying?
What I'm saying is
Dr. Fauci wants to kill the economy so Trump get unelected because he was on some meeting with Hillary or Bill Gates or what is it now?
What I'm saying
what's the
is
latest fucking fab?
maybe Dr. Fauci and others, not just him, because I don't think he's an intellectual giant. There's far smarter people working under him that he's glomming the credit for their work.
I would hope so. He's 79.
Yeah, but he wasn't that bright back in the 80s, so I don't really see it. All I'm wondering is that we've seen the president on many occasions try to kind of he's been making overtures that he wants to open the economy back up in the last couple of days.
He's been doing that since the beginning.
Right. And so the position that you shouldn't do it, it's not like every doctor agrees, like climate change. It's that the doctors that matter, that have position at NIH, at CDC, at these universities, but they think something, and they have clout. And we've seen that
clout with what? Not with the fucking federal government.
Well, I mean, let me get this straight. You're telling me, because you said on this show before that you believe like people like Dr. Bricks and people behind her kind of have the president over a barrel politically. Like you said you can't just fire Fauci right now because the American people, they like him.
I said on our last show, when I saw the Fox poll, that 62% approve of Dr. Birx and trust her, and 81% approve of Fauci, that it is a political impossibility to jettison either one of them in the middle of this entire thing that's going on here. So they forgot.
So then they must have some clout then, right?
Not clout over the fucking federalism and the Constitution.
No, not that. I don't mean like that. I mean, they have some influence over the decision making with the president and his staff. They are stakeholders in those conversations.
Of course they are. They're the ones showing them the fucking charts of how many people are sick, hospitalized, ventilated, and dead.
Right.
In this country.
And they're the ones that they're the ones that were pushing. And I would assume still are pushing.
Okay, let's just reverse this whole argument for a second. 2 contractors get killed protecting our Kurdish Syrian oil fields and from the insurrection coming from Erdogan and Russia from the other direction. So we make a slight move militarily. Everybody freaks the fuck out. Dead soldiers, caskets, flags, Delaware Air Base.
Right.
Everybody really appreciates Trump and the emotionalism. 20,000 dead Americans. Nothing. Because, comorbidity. I can't even pronounce their last name. They were poor. Well, they had diabetes and they couldn't speak English and all that. So you expect what? You expect Trump to have no fucking compassion for the fact that he's sitting in a fucking room every day, twice a day, getting updated with fucking mortalities? He's supposed to be just like immune to average citizens dying? But 2 soldiers coming back from a terrorist attack or contract employees working with the government, and we all freak the fuck out. What do? We turn on Tucker Carlson. My God, we got to get out of Syria. We got to get out of Iraq. We got to get out of Afghanistan. We got to get out of the Middle East. We got to get out of Germany. We got to get out of South Korea. We got to get out of blah, 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 blah. Tens of thousands of Americans could die. And what's Tucker Carlson saying? How are they blocking religious ceremonies from occurring? This is a violation of civil liberties. This is incredible that Donald Trump allows this to occur. People are going to die in a pandemic. That's just this is what happens. Give me a fucking break. So you're telling me that Donald Trump is compassionate only toward people that wore the uniform, who, by the way, are dying, veterans dying, World War II, the last ones we have left dying because of coronavirus, Korean War vet dying because of this, ships infected at the rate of 50% out, multiple ships, not just the one where we fired the captain, Crozier. Nobody gives a shit about that? You don't think Trump does? I'm very curious about how people think. Very curious. Very curious about. Tell me about it. Tell me about how that makes sense. Bring all the soldiers home, man. Bring all the fucking soldiers home. Not one more death. Not one more death. And then what do we get? We get a fucking foreign pathogen that comes into this country and kills tens of thousands of Americans. And now the answer is open up the economy, Mr. President. Doesn't matter how many people die. We're going to lose more by suicide and unemployment, even though the fact that if you're unemployed, we're going to cover it 100% plus $600. Even if you have a small business and you can apply for the loan, we're going to cover it. And if we didn't do it yet, we're going to add more money to it and cover it. So let's not act like he hasn't done anything. Yeah, bitchy, whiny, complainy people on here. That's what you have. You have hypocrites, absolute hypocrites on here. And they should love Tucker Carlson then. If you're a fucking hypocrite, love it. I should get my Lookner glasses. You're right. Shane's right. That was almost a frothy mouth. That was almost a frothy mouth.
S. Isaacs is saying that something about the website I need to look at. So I went to our website, and what I'm noticing is there's nothing wrong with our website or our hosting or anything like that. But it looks to me like YouTube, the YouTube loading of all of these various videos, there's something on the YouTube side that's messed up. And I just need to double check S. Isaacs that that's what you're seeing. I don't know when people say that go look at your website, it's like trying to report a murder and calling the police and saying, you should go to 55th and 5th now and hanging up.
Yeah, and guess what? Not really related to anything I'm saying right now. So if you can't donate, let us know. We'll figure out another way to do it, but we'll figure it out forensically afterwards.
Oh, it says no, hit
Irish, okay. Irish. If suicides are way up because people are afraid they'll have no job to return to, they have mental problems so deep-seated that they would have probably done so anyway. If they cannot wait 20 more fucking days until we have the opportunity to assess data and open up industry, I'm pretty sure that's fucked up, considering every government program is open across the board. No evictions, no foreclosures, no car repossessions, nothing. If you're whacking yourself out over that, Irish, then you did too many drugs in California. Not you, but the people that you are talking about killing themselves. Please. It's ridiculous. They're not going to lose their homes. We already suspended foreclosures. What are you talking about? Christ almighty. That's not fair. These people are families. That's why we suspended, well, not us, but Gavin Newsom. The reason why he has an 85% approval rating in California right now is because you cannot get removed. You cannot get kicked out of your fucking house or your apartment or your car or anything. So if you're killing yourself in California, I got to wonder why. Why are you doing that? I'm not letting anybody off the hook with this bullshit.
Yes, S. Isaacs, we received your donation. Thank you. Wow. It's a big one. Thank you very much. Very, very generous of you. We did receive it.
I hope he didn't have to climb a tree again to get the signal, even though that was
I
our
think
inside joke.
I think there may be something going on. There may be something going on.
Irish, Some banks are not cooperating with the paycheck protection bullshit. They'll get through it. California law has stopped eviction, foreclosure, car repossession, basically every fucking thing you can imagine. So please spare me this shit. Get me rocked.
No tree climbing for you. Maybe that's the problem. You need to climb higher to use the donation form on our website. That could be it.
Hey, Irish, if you're unemployed, guess what? We have a 4-month program that pays you 100% of your fucking salary plus $600. Did you know that? You might want to check out sba.gov. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. I'm tired of getting. I'm tired of it. That is gaslighting bullshit. Know your facts. Don't come in here with that half-ass shit. Done with it. What the fuck do you think we did in Congress, for Christ's sake? What do you think $1 trillion fucking dollars? You know what? The only reason those trillions of dollars can't get through the system is because they're putting it through horrible fucking formatted, programmatic fucking program. They can't deal with it. The local banks all bitch and moan. I don't want to give out this. I don't want to give out that. You know, and then you got the checks going through IRS, Social Security Administration. Those assholes have about 14 people working for them. How the fuck are we going to kick out that shit in 2 weeks? I have no concern for the average working man. Are you fucking kidding me? I'm the one that fucking lobbied my congressman to make sure that you had 100% unemployment if you went and lost your fucking job for 4 fucking months. I have no fucking, give me a break. Get the fuck off of here. Get off my fucking broadcast. I don't want to block you. Get off. You dare make a comment like that to me. That's ridiculous. How much more can this goddamn, no, 600 a month, 600 on top of your 100% salary, Theo. Okay, we're going to be under this for a year or longer. Did you know that, Glenn? We're going to be under a year or longer now. Who are you listening to? Who the fuck are you listening to? I don't need this horse shit.
A year.
Yeah, we're going to be sitting on it for a year. A year or longer.
Can you imagine how bad it is after, what are we at now, like 3 weeks?
Fucking civil war for a fucking year.
You imagine where we'd be in like 10 or 11 months? I think...
I can tell you right now where we're going to be 2 months from now if this shit ain't baked out. I don't need stupidity. Don't come at me with stupidity. Come at me with logic. I'm happy to answer the questions.
I think
This government has really stepped up. This president has stepped up. This Senate has stepped up. They railroaded a Democrat Congress. It's unbelievable that people are still doubting this. And if your money is not there yet, and you're in a food bank line, I feel fucking bad. I do. I honestly, God, do. You think I'm fucking rich? You think I'm living high on the fucking hog? The answer is fucking no. I'm not immune to this shit. Yeah, Maryland's not, emo is not under indefinite quarantine. Christ, we don't need these Larry Hogan fucking rumors floating around because most people don't know that you're not joking. The May 15th shit is bullshit. Whatever the feds put out on May 1st will change everything. Wow, mighty. Is this what it's going to take? Is this the end of America? A wet market Wuhan virus? Is this the end of it? I mean, are we ballless now? Are we pathetic?
Well, you remember my comment when this started? I said the only thing I can say 100% is that the World War II generation is now gone.
If they weren't, they're dead now because of this fucking virus. That's the problem.
There's no way that generation would have crumbled over something as ridiculous as this. That generation dealt with real problems. Millions of Americans dying.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you this. Once again, if you say that, you're discounting the like this is like a fucking massacre going on in your metro.
Yeah, it's a massacre, but I'm just saying that my father's generation dealt with a lot worse, and it didn't. And
really,
I
because
so.
Science doesn't back that up.
Huh?
Science doesn't back it up.
Well, we'll see about your science when the final death count is there. Okay.
Well, I'm telling you, over this 2-month period, it ain't there.
Well,
unless your father was hanging around in 1917 and 18, and you got some big numbers from the area.
He was born. He was born in 1920. He remembers all of the sanitariums and all kinds of diseases wiping out people on a regular basis. Yeah,
polio,
TB, polio, the whole
shit.
bit. Yeah, those were real things.
Did we get it from fucking China?
I don't know where we got that. Ultimately, you're talking about the number of people dying. And somehow on top of that, they went through World War I and World War II. They were made of tougher stuff than we are.
I'm not going to argue that point.
Now, we just got a donation, I guess.
That shocks me.
From Rita, also known as Feisty.
Yeah, Feisty. Feisty is my middle name tonight, by the way.
And also, hold on. Yeah, that's Rita again. So it's coming in. We mentioned Scott. S. Isaacson. S. Isaacs.
Yeah, he's our boy. Isaacs.
And Kathy. Thank you, Kathy. That one just came in. And also Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. And thank you, Bud, down under. He says, love the debate. Keep asking the hard questions, gents. Thankfully, practically over here in Australia. Bud from Australia.
And they started kicking out people that didn't belong there. That's how they ended it.
Yeah, well, that's, if this thing is a precursor to other things, then I would hope at some point in the future. Wow, that's a long thing. Someone is putting on Twitch. Something about HIV. Anyway. Yeah, exactly. Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor?
Yeah, well, long live in our memories, Jim Belushi.
John Belushi. Unfortunately, Jim Belushi's still alive and making movies occasionally.
What I meant to say was, quickly die, Jim Belushi.
Yes.
Bring back to life, John Belushi. You have to understand, my wife has provided all my allotment of White Claws. So my Irish is up at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Maddie, the Depression era was, whatever it is we've been through is maybe 30% of what that generation had to deal with for years. It wasn't even like 6 months. Adam is here complaining, rightfully, that people are losing their fucking minds 3 or 4 weeks into the government trying to keep people from mixing with each other. You imagine that generation that went through year after year after year of rationing? I mean, people were being taken and arrested and thrown into detention camps for having the wrong relatives.
Well, Scott, there's only one more left, so we still got a little time. I still got another one. She can only get 6 because they're what are they not? What are they not embargoing or hiding away or rationing right now at the grocery stores? She got me 6 White Claws, and I have nothing else to drink in the house except for Bailey's in the morning for my first cup of coffee. So, frankly, I haven't eaten much because I don't eat much between Good Friday and Holy Saturday. So, it's rocketing right to the Irish part of my frontal lobes.
Kathy Bug has a message on her donation. It says, "Hang in there, Adam and Glenn. People are getting crazy right now."
Yeah, including us. Love Kathy. Love a lot of people, actually, even the ones that irritate the shit out of me tonight. There's like this familiarity to the whole thing that we can fight this out. I'll yell at Glenn when I don't agree. He'll yell back at me when he doesn't, and the same goes for all of you. I mean, feel free to, in literal form,
Well, I only
chew us
yell. I
out.
only yell when I'm right and you're wrong. You have to
Well, that never
realize that.
happens.
Yes. That's why it's rare that I yell, but when I do, it's because I'm right and you're wrong. See? By the way, Lady Steph C, thank you for your donation. All she says, message wise, is great streaming tonight.
I think this is just it's spilling over from the frustration that we all, in some form or another, have. One thing that really bothers me after checking a lot of stuff that was sent to me on Twitter, and it's not, I don't have the luxury that a lot of people do of just like, I'm going to avoid Twitter today. I mean, every day I check my DMs, so that's part of my ritual, and a lot of things come to me there with that, I got to check out, and it aggravates the shit out of me. I mean, not that I don't want you to do it. I appreciate it. I like it. But when I read what you sent me, and that I disagree with it, and that's why you sent it to me, and I appreciate that. It's just awful, awful, because I feel this fragmentation between the fact that it's Easter Sunday right now, and I was raised Catholic, very Catholic. I'm raising my daughters Catholic, and it's very important to me. It's always been a very important day for our family. I understand people not being cool with being separated from their other parishioners or the congregation aspect of it, but it also, what gets me, as George Jones would say, the white lightning part of this whole thing is the weakness. And perhaps I should use another term for it, but I can't. I can't find one. It's the weakness of faith, that you need that. And instead, I would flip this, as I said earlier, and I'll say it one more time. I would flip this narrative to yourself, your family, that you are celebrating Easter confined, isolated. Perhaps you're afraid, perhaps you're not. The same way the first Christians were celebrating before they knew, or just upon finding out that Christ had actually arisen. You're celebrating no different than the apostles of Christ if you are staying home tomorrow. And this hasn't happened very much in the history of the world. I mean, I'm sure there were times in the 1600s with the bubonic plague and maybe a couple other times, but I'm telling you, this is a very rare time in the world, and it's a time to reflect upon why you're a Christian, what you believe, if you're a Catholic, it's a little difficult. I get that, because we have not just symbolic communion, we have transubstantiation, which is the actual body of Christ and blood of Christ. But the dispensations have been put out there, but we're already kind of like, the most of us Catholics are already kind of like out there because of Francis. We already feel disassociated. We feel a little bit blocked off. And, what I think is it's a chance to rediscover what Easter is. Read, not have some pastor up there in, in jeans and boots and an untucked fucking shirt from the Gap tell you about Matthew, Luke. I want you to understand that you can read that yourself. And if you don't have a Bible, you've got a phone, you can bring that Bible up on your phone and you can read about, and they're not uniform stories. You're going to have to figure out what you believe, which gospels are true, which truest to what you believe about what led up to this day, today, Easter. So as a Catholic, and I have been all day, teaching, watching films. I can't let them watch Passion of the Christ, because I'll give you credit, Mel Gibson, that might be one of the most violent films you've ever produced. But, I watched it last night, and my wife did. But there's so much to learn right now about yourselves, about your family, about what your future is, what your job. Are you worried about it? Do you want another one? Do you want to keep this? There's everything about right now is in flux. It's a learning opportunity. With God, according to Matthew, everything is possible. I don't want to sound like that bald-headed freak out in Arizona or anything, praying medic or anything, but with God, all things are possible. But nobody ever said they were all good. That's my ad lib on the end of it. All things are possible, but nobody ever said that they were all gonna be good or easy or fun. Matter of fact, if you look back at the history of Christianity, does it look like fun to you? When you look at everything that is in the Bible, Old and New Testament, does it look like a lot of fun to you? Or does it look like a lot of people went through a lot of harder times than what we're going through right now? And the last tweet that I put out today, and the last tweet that I will put out until later tomorrow, is that maybe it's time that we change things up a little bit. Maybe it's time that we count our blessings instead of counting on our blessings. Meaning, maybe it's time you take stock of what you have and be thankful for it, even if it's not a great Easter and this is pretty bad for you, and you might be on unemployment, and your state has a shitty unemployment office that can't file anything past Lotus, and you're gonna wait for a while, and it sucks. What else do you have? Do you have family? Do you have loved ones? Do you have a pet that you love? Do you have a neighbor that you take care of, or they take care of you? Do you have something good? Count your blessings. Don't count on them. This is, even if you're only mildly religious, Glenn, you've got to look at this arc of what's going on right now and say to yourself, there's something going on here. If you do believe in the grand scheme, then find it, pivot, hold on to it, make it better for yourself and for your family. I want to thank John Roberts, $10. Spirited discussion tonight, gentlemen. My dad always said the strongest families always had a healthy mutual disrespect for one another. I don't know if that was a misspelled word there, but a healthy mutual disrespect for one another. He is risen. Godspeed. We do appreciate that. That's my thing. It's like, I've got 2 kids, and I've got to make this something that I know they're going to remember for the rest of their life. They're already going to remember it because they're out of school for so long. Or Claire couldn't celebrate her birthday with any of her friends or cousins, or, all they can do is get out for a couple of miles on a green belt with mom and dad and staying 6-8 feet away from everybody else. This is going to change them. This is the formative years, 6 and 7 years old. I mean, these are formative years. It's going to change everything about the way that they view things for the next couple of years. And I'm trying to make it about washing hands and, all kinds of hygiene issues, and not so much about avoiding people. But we all have responsibilities. Some are parents, some are not. Some are business owners, some are not. Some are people that work for business owners that just cannot make it through this time. And then you have to depend on the government and the plans that we put through with the CARES Act. And you have to work with it. You have to work with your banks. You have to work with your lenders. You've got to make sure that you don't just wait for an envelope to come in the mail. You've got to call them first. If you can't make your car payment, call them. If you can't make your rent, call the landlord. If you can't make the mortgage, call the bank. I mean, this is a time in America where we finally got them on the one side. All the big banks, all the big landowners, all the other blah, 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 blah. Nobody wants you to fail, because a failed American is good for no one. They can't pay for anything. They default on their loans. Everybody wants you to make it through this process. They want you to succeed. And I know you're frustrated. I'm frustrated. I don't know where this is going. I don't know how long it's going to last. I don't like what's going on with social media commentary, but I do know that today is Easter as of right now, and that I have a great appreciation for everybody who has joined us, and I wish them a happy Easter. And I want to remind them one more time what it is that you're celebrating, what it is you're celebrating. I mean, it's a resurrection. It's faith, hope, everlasting hope. It's conquering death, conquering misery, conquering fear, all of that stuff. What we should look at as Christian, Catholics, and whatever is that it's very auspicious timing for this type of phenomena to occur, and that we should take faith in it and move forward and support each other. And I will remind you that if you plan on acts of civil disobedience tomorrow, which I feel are senseless, because as long as you have the good book at home, or even a cell phone with access to data, you can celebrate Easter, and you can celebrate Easter in your own way. You can celebrate Easter the same way the first Christians on the first Easter did, alone, isolated, afraid, and unsure of what's going to happen. That's exactly what they did. They did not know. So this is your chance to do it that way. Except you know what they didn't, that Christ has risen, that Thomas will put his finger through the holes in his hands and feet. So you have a lot going for you that they didn't have over 2,000 years ago. And all you have to do is take that faith, work with your government as best you can, try to get through it. If you have friends that can help you, call them. If you have family that can help you, call them. Pride should not get in the way of you feeding your family or paying your rent. We're going to have our data points, by April 30th. I have great faith in the task force. I have great faith in President Trump to take that all in aggregate and spin out the golden ticket, Wonka style, about how we're supposed to move forward. And I wish you all a very meaningful Easter tomorrow. And that's what this whole thing is about. We can disagree over everything else, but if you're a Christian, you have to understand the message that is involved tomorrow. And you don't need a pastor to open up Luke or Matthew and read the highlighted red passages. All right? You don't need that. You've got the book, or you've got the telephone that can open up the book. If you're a Christian, if you're not, God bless you anyway. But I'm gonna wrap up. I'm gonna wrap up, and I apologize if people didn't like the combative nature of this, but you have to know that I hold no ill will towards Glenn's perspective. Glenn holds, I think, no ill will towards mine. Not the first time we're gonna disagree on shit. Let's just hope that whatever the truth is in the middle of what we both think. Because if one thing that we have in common is we care about America always finishing first. Win, win, win. That's all we want. That's all I want. Happy Easter to you, your family, all of you. Thank you for those who decided, rather bizarrely, to contribute to this shit show. But I've got to get up early because the Easter eggs are hidden around the house instead of where we would normally do this stuff. And we're going to make the best of it. And happy Passover to our Jewish friends. And remember what Passover really meant, Glenn. And you know that from half your family history. Passover, death. Death passed over when they put the blood of the lamb over the doors. When the Moses-led era to free the slaves from Egypt.
You're realizing that the Jews are celebrating the death of everyone else's firstborn sons.
Well, they weren't celebrating. They were kind of like, okay, we're going to deal with this, but yeah.
But yeah. I get it. I mean, this is why I've always said that Christianity to me has always been more substantial because somehow it can transcend these our team won and your team lost kind of things. It has a more encompassing. Even our enemies deserve mercy. Even our enemies deserve real self-realization and eternal life. I always found that impressive. But you're gonna bring in the Passover thing. I mean, it's I just don't really see it as. I have never, as someone born in a Jewish family, I never really saw it as the same because during the Seder, it's just this litany of how we got hooked up by God and other people got fucked, right? So basically, I'm living that life every single day since I've been an adult.
But you don't. Well, you do eat some bad food, but not sour.
Not that bad.
Not sour herbs and unleavened bread.
And the most nasty things are the ones I like the best, like the tears was salt water. And you dip bitter herbs in the salt water. I could eat that every day, all day. And I also like the super hot radish. The horseradish is delightful, but it is nasty. I understand that there's something wrong with me.
It is a sick palate that enjoys that
super
stuff.
Super hot.
We'll be on Tuesday, and God knows what the world's going to look like on Tuesday. But until then. I don't know if you're taking tomorrow night off so that you and the colonel.
The colonel. Listen, the colonel called me yesterday, and he wanted my advice on what stories we should talk about. So I think the Colonel. I think the Colonel is probably. You want my take? Don't tell him I told him. I think he's using this whole thing as an excuse where he doesn't have to go to church, and he's going to probably start drinking at about 6 o'clock. So
yeah, well, it won't be open anyway, and I'm pretty sure Mrs. Colonel will join him in that. And you know what? Since we'll all be home for the first time on Easter, when we normally would be with family, then we'll probably be tuning in.
Yeah, for the first time in a long time. God help us all. You'll be watching Sunday with the Colonel, and he's going to be
Sunday with the Colonel
in a rare form, no doubt. By the way, before you go, Adam, you should know that Mitzi sent a very nice donation to us, as did Jonathan, and Silog from the Twitch side. All sent donations while you were talking about Easter.
Ranting, and my final word will be that let there be no limitations on the blessed, and let I, even in my most rambunctious form, stop to pray in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost for a happy Easter and a healthy Easter for all those who tolerate us, listen to us, and support us. So thank you, Glenn, and I'm going to jump off from here. Happy Easter, everybody.
Right, there goes Adam, everyone. We'll see him again Tuesday at 10 p.m. for more... I know who you are, Silog. I know who you are. And it's interesting to see you on the YouTube side now. I want to thank everybody for watching. I want to thank those who sent us a contribution. It's almost too much to believe that we're 2 weeks into this and getting regular contributions. I had written off that possibility years ago. I didn't think it was possible that the MAGA coalition could resuscitate itself, but I guess as an Easter time analogy, the MAGA coalition also. Oh, then there's Bill Colvard. You probably weren't here at the beginning of the show, Bill, but I thanked you for the donation you made during the afternoon, which I actually received while standing on a line in Home Depot with some guy. And the thing I didn't tell you guys is not only was he wearing a surgical mask and it was worn incorrectly, so there were big gaps between his skin and the mask, but the most laughable part was he was wearing pajama bottoms. If you want to know why I see the absurdity in everything, that's why. That's utterly absurd. A guy wearing his pajamas at Home Depot, wearing a surgical mask, wrong. To me, it's the ultimate analogy to this strange period we're living through. So I want to thank everyone who made the donations. That's good, because now we can pay for the hosting and the email and all that jazz. I want to thank everyone for watching, because without people watching, it would literally be just me arguing with Adam over Zoom. It would literally be Bill Mitchell's show. Yeah. Maybe if it was Bill Mitchell's show, not only wouldn't we have a real audience, but I would have to pay $5 for a bunch of Russian bots to make it look like I have an audience. So which is sadder, not having an audience or paying for fake accounts to make it look like you're having an audience? I vote for the latter. I think it's sadder. Having no audience is sad, no doubt, but having no audience and paying $5 to make it look like you have an audience, to me, it's really sad. It's pathetic. So think of Bill Mitchell on this Easter and pray for his redemption, because I think without the power and the glory of God, he has no chance. He's a goner. Everyone stay safe out there. Keep away from suspicious people. wash often, and avoid tainted food. Anything that might slow your system down should be avoided. So I think that's all I got, unless you guys got something else. Unless you go, well, that's the thing, is only one of us can go off the rails at any given time. So tonight was Adam's chance to yell. And when that happens, I can't do it, because then the show becomes like a wrestling show, right? So maybe next time I'll start ranting and raving, and Adam will be the low-key one. But thanks for watching, guys. It's literally the only reason I still do this, is because people, whenever I'm about to stop doing it, they start flooding my DMs with these oddly heartfelt feelings about how much they rely on this show, listening to Adam, and yes, even myself. And so I've made peace with that. So I'm not going to go anywhere. But yeah. Yes. How is my fat cat is doing way better than I am, that's for sure. That cat lives better than 99% of humans on the planet. That's no joke. That's no joke. Any interest in doing a Glenn solo show? I did that for like 3 years, and I got bored of listening to myself. I can listen to my own crazy thoughts without doing a show. It's called my life, my tortured life. Maybe at some point I've been thinking about doing a purely firearms related show, maybe once a month, twice a month, nothing more than that, because we're moving up to this election in November. I would assume we're now doing, Adam and I are doing 3 shows a week, and then there's the Colonel on Sunday at 8. I would assume as things get closer to the election, that 3-day-a-week schedule, which is Tuesday at 10 Eastern Time, Thursday at 10 Eastern Time, and Saturday now at 11 Eastern Time, it could become daily. So really, I think the smart move is not to start thinking about, Wolvie Guy remembers the New York City Guns radio. Cublomo. Yes. I think I may end up trying to do that at least once a month, but I don't see that really happening with any regularity until the election is over and once Trump gets another 4 years, I probably would be open to doing a firearms only show in my spare time, but I see MAGA coalition business getting more as we move toward the election. And this would literally be the worst time for me to think about doing an hour of gun-related stuff a month, because I just don't see it as very important right now. If Trump doesn't win re-election, then it won't matter. Anything that we talk about guns now, everything is contingent on Trump getting another 4 years. And so that should be the focus. And I think that most of that time is better spent doing these shows than doing something about, arcane firearm lawsuits in various municipalities. Who gives a shit? Like, look, it's not like there isn't news out there. There's a ton of states right now getting sued by Second Amendment Foundation, Gun Owners of America, to name a few, over their draconian policies during this pandemic. closing gun stores and whatnot. And there's a lot of good news. Most of these places that have done it have all reversed that decision as soon as the lawsuits were filed, which is very good. But compared to, compared to what President Trump not getting another 4 years, who cares? It's just, you can't compare the two. I want to thank, by the way, I want to thank Bill. That's Bill Moran. Thank you. And Bill, it's good to see you still listening after all this time. I'm amazed. Let's see if there's one other one. Did we? No, I think that's it. No, there was one more. It just came across. It was, no, that was also Bill Moran. Bill Moran says, testing to see where you add comments. I don't see it on BAU form submission only. Alternative. Donating to figure out the process. You know what, Bill? Thank you. I will check to make sure that the message field is there. If not, I will add it. Thank you for reminding me. See? Not only did we get oh, hey, DeFango's here. Do I admit to DeFango that I played Star Citizen for an hour? And in the hour, I managed to go to a planet, not find anywhere to land, and run out of fuel? I don't think I'm going to admit that to him because it makes me sound like a complete loser. So I won't mention that. Not going to be mentioning my failure. I did like it as much as failing at something can be fun, right? But I'm getting better. So, after getting drifted out and into nowhere land with no gas, it was even pathetic. I ran out of gas literally 1,000 feet from a space station that I could have gotten more gas. But then I had to do this show, so I admitted defeat and committed suicide. So there it is. I'm sure there's a million things that he could have told me to do. But, yeah. How sad. I'm an old man trying to play a young man's game. Pathetic. But I will persevere and I will dominate. I will. You'll see. You'll see. And it's not, for the first time, it's not my computer that's the bottleneck. It's me. Which is humbling in itself. So, let's see. Yeah, I think that, listen, if I can ever get to the point where I wouldn't be a detriment to DeFango, we've discussed it. If I could actually be a contributor, we could do a joint live stream where we're both playing Star Citizen and talking to each other. I think it would be I think it would be a great show. We could be shooting the shit, talking about interesting things while roaming around this fake universe, right? Yes, Isaac says he's older than me and still climbs trees. Well, you have to climb trees in order to get cell phone. Listen, if I had to climb a goddamn tree to watch Adam, I'd be on the tree. Thankfully, I don't need to do it. But I understand the need. I do. Yes. So, what was my final thought here? Yeah, did we thank the right people? Wanted to thank Bill Moran, and thanks for the heads up too. I will check to make sure people can send a text message with their donation using our form. I think I may have forgotten that in my haste to fix the form. I can't believe people would want to watch that, DeFango, but people want to watch it, so I guess I have to start playing more to get better. I think at this point, all I need to do is master dogfighting in those little spaceships. And once I've got that under my belt, that and finding places to land on a planet, that could be useful. I think we're in good shape. So basically, I need to learn how to play the game. All right. It's like 25, 30 years of business and no time for games has made me... it's like learning things all over again. Do it on Twitch. Hey, why not? Why not? So I hope people enjoyed our show tonight. as people have probably figured out, I am a what's a one way? I'm a curmudgeon. My tendency is naturally toward doubting everything until we can prove it. And when it comes to trusting the government, I mean, hey man, trust but verify, right? Trust but verify. And I think that Adam is right that what Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump have done with this package of up to $6 trillion, not that they're not going to spend $6 trillion, but they have carte blanche, a blank check up to $6 trillion. I mean, that's huge. And that's going to help a lot of people. Not everyone, because there always will be people who fall through the cracks. That's the nature of this world. But I would say that the majority of people are going to get taken care of. Unlike 2008, where everyone got, in the, we all took it the hard way. We took taking the 8 the hard way, right, guys? Yeah, that's right. S. Isaacs, you know where I'm coming from. Yes, Stefango, we will dominate the universe. That's faux show. It will happen. But do not mistake my skepticism for my belief, that the coronavirus is not deadly. Clearly, people are dying. But I will say one last time, just because something is deadly, I think it was unconscionable, the 1.7 million number that they used to bludgeon us over the head with in the first week or two. And I don't forget things. I don't forget Tony Fauci and Gallo and the rest of these guys in the 80s scaring the shit out of high school and college kids and young adults, saying that AIDS was going to become a heterosexual disease. And they were banging that drum for 2 years, maybe 3 years. And if it wasn't for my coming into contact with a German research scientist named Peter Duisberg, whose life was literally destroyed by Fauci, Gallo, and a coterie of other assholes, I would have believed it. I would have believed it. I would have missed out on some of the best times in my youth because I would be at home, too afraid, because now AIDS was going to jump to the heterosexual population. Based on what? Based on a bunch of guys with... Anyway, I feel no need to justify myself. I've been struggling with these type of things for 35 years. And trusting the government is a legitimate position. I can respect that. But in my daily life, I don't do it. I don't practice that. I do not trust the government. I certainly don't trust people who work for the government. And if I am going to trust the government, it's only after I verified. At some point, you just keep your mouth shut. That's when you live in a police state. What is a police state? It means that you have to pretend that you love the government even if you hate it, for fear that you will have your life taken or your freedom taken. So people don't like that. They can kiss my fucking ass. I'm old enough. I've earned the right to have my own opinions. And as you see, I have them. And I'm not going to stop for anybody at any time. Because I don't give a shit anymore. I don't give a shit. Cage Lady says that... Oh, you have closed all of our legs? Yeah. Well, I mean, look, there's one thing to say. There's a lot to be said about abstinence. But lying to people saying that AIDS was going to become billions will die worldwide in the heterosexual community for other political reasons that you're saying it, not because it's actually going to happen. I think that's unconscionable. And that was Tony Fauci. And I don't forget. I have a long memory for this stuff. So, yeah. By the way, I'd like to point out, guys, we still don't have a vaccine for AIDS. We still don't have a vaccine for AIDS. So why is AIDS not such a problem like it was when I was in high school? If you do your research and find out the answer to that, I think your eyes will be open. And you won't listen. You don't need Bricks or Fauci or anyone else to tell you what reality is. It may not be something you will like, but the truth sometimes isn't very palatable. So listen, guys, thanks for watching. Well, this social distancing thing. I think everyone had a good time tonight except one lady who got flamed out. Surprisingly, not by me. It's actually nice to be the good cop for once, right, guys? Usually, I'm the one who flames people out, viciously attacks them. Once they show weakness, going in for another round. I mean, I will admit, that is my general personality. But tonight really was a role reversal for me, where I got to be the good guy. And you know what? I liked it. So I'm going to try to be the good guy for more often now. And we'll let Adam yell at the audience. I think it works out better for me. It's very entertaining for me. I think you guys enjoyed it. We got a lot of donations, so people obviously like that new format. I'm not sure Adam is going to talk to me anymore if I tell him that should be the new format. So I probably won't tell him that that's what I think the new format. And thank God he'll never see this. So yeah, but it is a good format. People seem to enjoy it. Everyone here is saying it. See? They loved it. Cylog says social distancing is his life. And I agree. It's been my life too, since roughly, I'd say 2002, 2003. Well, we're going to get Adam. I'm going to mail him some Alka-Seltzer tablets. And the key to doing a good impression of Lucknow is to take the tablet. If this is the whole tablet, just take like an eighth of it with a knife, put it under your tongue, and then start doing your impression of Lucknow. And then the foam will start appearing in little pieces, and then eventually it'll be like all over it. I told Adam at some point I may have to take over that impression to show the world how it needs to be done. Because I think I can capture Luckner's shrew-like essence. He is a rat. There's certain people who are rat-like. He's one of those people. So I think we can, people like it. See? People like it. Feisty likes my idea. William likes my idea. Base Chica obviously likes my idea. Base Chica has impeccable taste. And so naturally this idea would be something she's like, yeah, that's definitely something worth doing. Yeah. Is it the lockdown making him cranky or being trapped in a house with his family 24 hours a day? Listen, all I can say is I always complain that this place we have here is way too big for two people. But now that we're both 24/7 around each other, it is kind of awesome that she can be in one wing of the house. I can be in the other wing. It definitely relieves the stress. And I think for all the single people out there, this is just my opinion. But I think in times like this, being single might actually be less stressful. Maybe. Right? Because I notice my wife, by the way, my wife is also, if Adam gets angry at some of the things that we're discussing, he doesn't like it. And he should stay here for a weekend with my wife. She'll drive him crazy. She believes all of the various conspiracies and whatnot. And I get, I get a little cross with her. I'm like, why are you saying this nonsense? But I use it. I try to look at it like as a good bellwether of where the average Trump supporter's head is at. And I think Adam is right again. It's ugly. It's getting uglier. Yeah, but Base Chica, I mean, the pets are comforting. Not my pet, of course. I've seen her pets. They're nice. Like, she has a cat. She actually has affectionate cats. My cat is mean and very badly tempered, screaming constantly when it doesn't get its way. It's a bully. My cat is basically like Donald Trump, right? He's your worst nightmare if you don't deliver what he wants when he wants. Then he'll drop the hammer on you. So, yeah, I'm thinking I'm seeing here people that are single. I think, look, for normal times, it can get lonely if you're not somehow damaged, right? But for times like this, I think I'm just noticing being around other people who are filled with anxiety, which I'm not, makes me feel anxious. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. I don't feel very anxious unless I'm around people that are constantly anxious about something. And my wife is constantly anxious, so. Yeah, but that's the thing. Icky in Arizona, you say we need to trust our authorities, but I don't. The authorities to me have been lying. They're just liars. And they're playing games. They're playing political games. And so, I want to support the president. And if that means 95% of the time keeping my mouth shut and just cheerleading and you rah, 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 then that's what I'm going to do. But every now and then I need to release a little of the pressure. I just can't take I can't just take the week upon week upon week of not being able to ask any questions when clearly stories are changing. And you can't, I mean, look, it's one thing, that's politics, but it ain't science. That's not science, man. If my father taught me anything, he taught me what science was. And that ain't it. But then again, I comfort myself that most of the people in the management positions in science, they're not practicing. They're not following the scientific method. They're all politicians, so whatever. That's it, Doug. Fear porn isn't titillating, and I think that's the problem. That's why we're seeing people yelling and screaming, because people are tuning them out. And the problem with that is when we actually have like the next bubonic plague or Ebola does actually get weaponized, no one's going to believe you. The boy that cried wolf. And I'm taking it, I've realized this and I laugh at it. I think it's funny because I completely understand Adam's position, which is, don't you see? They're constantly questioning everything. When the big one finally comes, we're all going to die. And I'm seeing the same thing, except I'm not getting all bent out of shape about it because I'm thinking it's inevitable. It's inevitable. The government has misbehaved for so many decades. No one believes them. It's the minority of the population now that believes them. It used to be the majority when I was a kid. When I was a kid, 20 or 30% of un-American types didn't believe the government. But you know what? After Vietnam and all that other shit that between Vietnam and today, there's just that number's flipped. 70%, 7 out of 10 people, Republican and Democrat, don't trust the government. That's reality. That's my reality. I'm not disturbed by it. Shit, I'm part of that problem. I don't trust them. I worked in the government. Think about that, guys. I spent years working in various federal government agencies at a pretty high level. And I don't trust any of those motherfuckers. I don't trust them at all. Nor than that, I don't respect them either, because I know how dumb most of them are. They're just petty little venal liars that will say anything. Will say anything to get a few more lines in their budget next year. 6 months. We got 6 months, guys, till the new government budgets are established. So expect to see a lot of crying and weeping and yelling to try to pad the final numbers. This is a great time to be in the government if you're doing budgets, because there's just so much money floating around. It's like it's Christmas every day, but it's not. It's actually Easter. So happy Easter, everyone. I sometimes tell the story when I lived in India. Christians are a small, tiny minority in India. Maybe it's 1%, 2% of the population. But on Christian high holidays, one thing I always impressed me is all the Hindus, when they were aware that someone in their office or in their apartment complex were Christian, they would go to those people, shake their hands, and say, "Congratulations, sir. Happy Easter," something like that. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. Because you never really I never saw that in America. Now, true, I was living in New York, but still, I don't think anybody, it's rare. It's a rare thing, but when I was working with all those Indians at Avis, they were doing it there as well. And what was even weirder is that Hindus were shaking each other's hands, congratulating about Christ rising from the dead. So it's things are getting weirder and weirder out there, guys. And I'm just seeing it. I'm just noticing and reporting back dutifully. Like, what was that? Paul Blart, the mall cop, to, was it? No, not the other one. The one, observe and report. I am observing and now I'm reporting. So there's all kinds of weird stuff going on out there. So have a good one, guys. Now, they say it in English, sailing car. That's what's so funny. Because remember, in India, there's like, I don't know, 7 or 8 different states. Each of them have their own language. And their languages are sufficiently different that they can't understand each other. English, de facto, has become sort of their national language. You know, for anyone who doesn't live in a village, you know English. There was a big discussion in my family in 1975. Should I be sent to the American Embassy School, or should I be sent to an all-Indian school? And I wanted to go to the Indian school because I thought the girls were super hot. And they all wore little I guess, Catholic girl uniforms, kind of looked like. That's what it looked like to me, the little short plaid skirts and the stockings. And they all had long hair, and they looked great. And then there was the American Embassy School, filled with the rejected offspring of a bunch of American businessmen and scientists and whatever. All like weird hippie kids and whatever. So I wanted to go wear a uniform, looking smart, suited and booted. That's what I wanted to do, and I didn't get to do that. I ended up going to the American Embassy School, which was kind of, it was a very 70s thing. A bunch of 30-year-old stoner parents, they're weird kids, some real weirdos. But anyway, I don't think anyone even no one even remembered it was Easter at the American Embassy School. But it was weird. But in the all Hindu schools, they're all shaking each other's hand and congratulating each other. So I'm saying to you, congratulations on Easter. Yeah. And I guess we're back with the Colonel. The Colonel should be tanking up early. So it should be a really good show, is what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm thinking. So thanks, guys, for watching. I'm just going to check to make sure we covered everyone who has donated. I think we have. So that's good. So let's get out while the getting is good. We'll see you at 8 p.m. Eastern Time with a no doubt inebriated Colonel Jim Pillow. And then again on Tuesday at 10 p.m. with Adam Gingrich. And who knows, by next Tuesday, we may have some real movement in this coronavirus saga, which it's like, saga is the wrong word. It's like a serial. It's like one of these soap operas. From one day's episode to the next, everything can change. So tune in Tuesday for the next installment of, I don't know, As the Virus Turns, or something like that. Thanks for watching, guys. Be well. Be safe.